if you can't find me, you may never want to find me again. Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I like that new transaction, how it just fades into it, that just like clicking on. That was very, very annoying. But we're back here with another episode of the Barroom Podcast. And as you can tell here, everyone on our panel today has done one thing different from last week. And we're going to see if you guys can figure out what the one thing that is different from last week actually is. But until we guys figure that out, let's go ahead and introduce everyone to the show. Let's go ahead and start with our guy, Mr. Mobile, Orange Hat Reviews. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing very, very well. Well, while you're getting sit in, let's also introduce our good buddy C.S. Johnson, who I believe is still with us. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, man.
Yeah. My office is a mess again, so I'm
yeah,
still here.
That didn't take long.
Yeah,
No.
she was having a losing battle with cleanliness, just put it that way. So, you know.
Well, you got my children and husband came in here and started like dogpiling on each other, just playing and roughhousing. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm trying to work. Why are you here? So,
And then graduating the top bunk this week is Mr. Rob Motto. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. It's not every day that your favorite professional sports team fires their general manager when they're in first place and are most likely going to win their division and host a playoff game. So that was an interesting and kind of shocking thing that I was looking at all day. It's like, okay, some shit happened. So other than that, I'm hanging in there.
Everyone's been retweeting that video of what's his name, Mike Vrabel, when they traded away AJ Brown, and then his immediate reaction to find out they only got like 2 draft picks as a result. So yeah, that one probably didn't help matters, especially seeing how good Philadelphia is right now. Definitely didn't help matters in the long run. But joining us tonight is our good buddy Cole Classic Cage. How you doing tonight?
Everything is good, thankfully. Went out shooting today. That was fun. And
saw that.
Shooting in the fog. So always good to practice in terrible conditions and be better at what you're doing in those said conditions. So yeah, that was cool, and happy to be here as always, hanging with you guys and with the chat, and everything's cool.
And then joining us back here once again is our good buddy Nerdigans, all the way from Death Valley, California, which I'm going to bill you as for the rest of the show. How you doing?
It's been mixed because that was a few days ago when I was traumatized by the bastardization that is Hollywood's interpretation of Saint Seiya. But as Spencer will know in the chat, if he's in the chat, we were very spoiled by Ranger Rejects anime announcement yesterday. Oh my god, it's going to be so good. So if you're a Sentai fan, be prepared for greatness that is coming in anime form.
Oh yeah, our good buddy Oznot said, "Did you say Death Valley like the Undertaker?" Yeah, Nerdigans is in fact from Death Valley, California.
No, I'm from the Bay Area originally, but I'm in the Central Valley right now. If I was in Death Valley, I would die, literally.
No, you would get sunburned to death. Like it just wouldn't even be fair what would happen to you if you went out in the sun for that long.
People that do live in the Death Valley area, and they still survive.
All right, and then of course let's introduce our guys who are in the chat tonight. Duke Nukem joining us in. I don't know what tune this is, but I'm gonna figure out later on. It's gonna be hilarious. And he's also ready to bury Marvel. You're gonna have to wait just a little bit. We have that saved for the show, so don't get too far ahead of yourself. Our good buddy Neo is here with us once again tonight as well. As I said, we have entered the Barroom Podcast Zone. Oznot is also here with us as well in the chat. So all of our good buddies. And of course, Alex versus Evil joining us once again for another Tuesday night of just absolute and complete tomfoolery. Do you guys just want to get right into it, or does anyone have any stories that they want to talk about for the week? I know Rob had a very traumatic experience with his Titans. Does anyone else have a good story that they want to start off with?
Well, are we going to talk about what Margot Robbie said about wanting to have a lesbian relationship with Poison Ivy in one of the movies? and the fan casting that I posted in the chat about they wanted to blackwash Poison Ivy as well.
Yeah, you know, the whole thing with like blackwashing, especially with redheads, it was kind of a meme when people first like noticed it, but now it's becoming a thing. It's like, do you guys really have a problem with like redheads? Like, why is every single one of them being recast and almost in mass? What's going on right now?
I mean, at first it seemed innocuous, but now it just seems like it's a little too on the nose.
Mm-hmm. You know how leftists have to live up to every stereotype.
I think they do.
It gets conjured.
Yep. Shout out to our good buddy Brahma Bull, who's also joining us in the chat tonight. And yeah, I think we should go ahead and just start off with the tomfoolery. Did anyone see anything involving Kanye West for the last week or so? Is anyone? Not at all. Wow, I'm shocked that you guys haven't seen a single video.
I've seen it. I have seen it, and let me tell you, we were talking about it backstage, but we'll get into it after we get into it.
Yeah, so Kanye had a very interesting week, to say the least. I think he started off going on Tim Pool's show where he went and spewed off some stuff, and I think he left like almost like 10 minutes into the interview, and everyone thought, oh, there's Kanye being wild. That'll be the wildest thing about Kanye this week. And then he went on Alex Jones with full Gimp mask. And a lot of people saying that he went full Nazi, he went full Hitler. I guess you could say that, or you also say that he kind of just went full Black Hebrew Israelite, because he went way off the board to the fact that now people who even were defending him were like, oh boy, this is going to be a tough one for us to go back on. But here's another interview. If you guys saw, he did a sit down with Gavin McGinnis, who has been unpersoned on social media. So Gavin tried to sit down with him with Nick Fuentes, who apparently is like his new best friend all of a sudden, and trying to, I guess, have an intervention with him. Well, that exactly didn't go well, because during that interview, Kanye West said that Hitler's bad reputation was made by Jewish people who controlled the majority of the media. So, yes, if you guys hadn't heard, Kanye was very, very empathetic towards Hitler. He said that, that he loves Hitler, that, you're not going to sit there and make fun of the Nazis, or you're going to stop shitting on the Nazis and in his presence. So there was a lot of things. At this point, I don't know if he can get any more cancelable, because I think he's pretty much lost almost anything at this point. I think even the people who are like going after him are kind of feeling bad for him at this point, because he's gone so completely off the rails. He's at the point of pretty much no return. But he did go on Gavin's Censor.tv this week, saying, basically defending Adolf Hitler once again, wearing his same black Gimp mask, which a lot of people are saying is a statement about the whole Balenciaga thing, because apparently he was part of that whole thing. He's even still defending them to this day. But he also urged Jewish people to forgive Hitler, let it go, and stop trying to force it on other people. He says the interview becomes the latest one where Kanye West has doubled and tripled down on his anti-Semitic beliefs that he has been spewing for pretty much the last 2 months now. His admiration for Hitler and his denial that millions of Jews lost their life in the Holocaust. He spoke to McGinnis earlier this week in a blatant embrace of anti-Semitism. Says that Hitler only gets a pretty bad reputation because Jewish people made it that way because they controlled the media. When McGinnis brought up that millions of people who were Jews were killed in the Holocaust, West wasn't convinced. He said, but some of it is incorrect. Also, the Holocaust was not the only Holocaust, he said. We have abortion right now. That's eugenics. That's genocide. That's the Holocaust we're dealing with at the moment. He also continued to say that, Jewish people control the majority of the media, the banks, along with real estate, malls.
Well, this is Nick Fuentes. This is not Kanye. This is all Nick Fuentes.
We're definitely going to get to that one here in a second.
And I will tell you what, when we get there, I'll tell you what Tim Pool said too about Kanye's behavior, and also what he said about I think it was Nick Fuentes and Milo in particular. That it's mainly their agenda. They're using Kanye. This is not Kanye. This is just, he's being used. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, and I do want to point this out too, how all of a sudden Nick Fuentes came into the picture about a few weeks back. This all started when they tried to have a sit-down meeting with Trump, and then obviously Trump, I highly doubt Boomer knew who Nick Fuentes was, and then had to denounce him after the fact. But ever since Fuentes and Milo has come to be a part of his camp, that now all of a sudden he's just going on full like supporting Hitler, saying that Hitler wasn't that bad of a guy, and all this other nonsense. You can really just see those guys pulling the strings behind the scenes. Now, apparently, he's had a recent falling out with Milo over a couple of issues. The fact that he's been, I guess, extorting money out of him. There's been a whole lot of salacious details behind the scenes with him, which really isn't that surprising given Milo's background. I mean, the guy's pretty much broke at this point. He's been grifting for years. So, of course, he saw an opportunity to pounce on. And then Nick Fuentes joins the party, and he tries to use Kanye as a platform to share a lot of his beliefs. And I think that's being displayed here in a lot of these interviews that you're seeing as well. So, yeah, Nerdigans, I'll go ahead and start with you. What do you make of Kanye West going full Hebrew on you guys right now?
So basically what this is if you've ever watched a Nick Fuentes rally, which I have on many of the protest live streams back in like 2020, especially during the Trump campaign, he is extremely anti-Semitic. And everything that Kanye is saying is straight out of his book. And when I even said something about, not liking Nick Fuentes, that's when like the Patriot sect of the protest community started turning on me. And where things are now I can't even go on Twitch. I could barely go on Twitch without being brigaded by a lot of the Patriots on Twitch. That's how much they hate me. Yeah. And actually it's because of the whole thing with Nick Fuentes. It was then I realized it was like, why would I be in either camp? Both sides hate me for being a Jew. Why would I support either of them? There's no point in this. But getting back to what Tim Pool was saying, he was saying that, like, I think it was Milo in particular, and I think Nick as well, is that they're trying to ruin Trump. That's what they're doing. And they're using Kanye to do it. And I'm not like seeing all this really makes it even more convincing that they're doing it. That's what they're trying to do, especially with how Tim broke it down in one of his video, or in the video like the day after. Yeah. And he said for the most part, Kanye was just pretty goddamn chill until the camera went on. So,
yep. Like I said, I've noticed that too, how ever since, I think it was because when Kanye first started this whole thing, he was specifically talking about the Jewish people in the media industry and in the fashion industry. And then I think once he started talking about that, that's how somehow Nick Fuentes jumped into the picture. And now we're going, like I said, I don't know if you want to call it white nationalist or black Hebrew, because I do have another clip that I want to show that goes a lot with this. And it was the video, I'm not sure if you saw it, about the people in Brooklyn who were also praising Kanye and Kyrie Irving and also celebrating Hitler as well. I do want to throw that video in there as context. But Orange Hat, what's kind of your take on basically Kanye's meltdown? I know this is something that you've been wanting to talk about here for a bit.
First off, I was born in Germany, and I have had the talk with the whole Germans, Nazis, Hitler, and I was bullied about it too, but everybody loves to go off on this thing, and Kanye, I honestly think he needs help, because he's saying that people need to forgive Hitler. There's so much blood that it's literally atomized onto that dude's atoms, or it's pretty much stained his atoms wherever you go, where Hitler has been. There's only one thing you can say about Hitler that is positive, is that he did good paintings, because pre-Nazi party Hitler actually was an artist at a time. Wow. That's the only good thing people can say about Hitler. Everything else, that man is completely irredeemable. And I have German ancestry here and there, but I was born there on a U.S. military base, to be full context. But kids don't pay attention to that when you're a kid and you explain it. But I also do have some German ancestry as well. Also, if he is mirroring this Nick Fuentes guy, because honestly, until a few weeks ago, I didn't even know who the hell Nick Fuentes was.
Yeah.
I knew who
And
he was for a while, actually.
I mean, for me, it's like, okay, who's this Nick Fuentes guy? Now, if you would have asked me who Kanye West is mirroring when it comes to saying, oh, Jews are responsible for banks and this and that and yada yada, and all that other bullshit tropes, I would have thought he was mirroring Ilhan Omar's talking points, because she went on the same freaking tropes or after 2016 when she became a congresswoman. But him waiting for the cameras to start and then starting his BS tells me this was planned stuff. He had a plan to basically cause a bunch of freaking chaos, and he did so. And honestly, that should make everybody who is willing to give him a platform think twice before doing so.
Yeah.
I won't, or I wouldn't, even if I'm just a small YouTuber. I don't matter to any of these big famous names. But even if I did, and it's like, maybe we should give... Nope. This dude literally used Tim Pool, and I'm not the biggest fan of Tim Pool. I think he's informative, but dude's talking about a civil war every 5 seconds. But it's like, calm down with that shit, really. But he used him. And then when he found out he wasn't going to be used, he wasn't going to steer the conversation, he walked out. And then he goes on to Alex Jones, and he goes off on all that dribble, and it's like, wow, dude. I mean, even Alex Jones is raising his eyebrows at you.
Yeah.
That should say something.
Matter of fact, Alex Jones had to go on Crowder after the fact to slam both of them and kind of distance himself from that interview. I do want to put this in context too, that it's not just, Kanye's going insane. He's essentially burning everyone who went out of their way to defend him up to this point. Because he's burned his bridge with Alex Jones, burned his bridge with Trump, burned his bridge with Elon Musk, all in the course of like 1 week. And it's like, who's the only person who's gotten over during this whole thing? Oh, it's really just been Nick Fuentes, who may be pretty much a repressed homosexual with a lot of ties to, let's just say, federal agents. Let's just put it that way. Rob, what do you think of this whole fiasco that is debacle here with Kanye West?
Well, it's weird because I don't have the sort of traditional relationship with Kanye. Like, I've never heard a Kanye West song. I mean, I guess Gold Digger is a Kanye West song, but it's just because it was on the radio so much at one point, and I was listening. But I have really no relationship with him. He was actually on the first guest on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, a podcast that's been on for almost 10 years. So I know Kanye West, like, just given a platform, rambles. He says kind of dumb, crazy shit, probably because he's bipolar, but also because he's incredibly wealthy, and who's there to really stop him? Nobody's really going to get in his way. He's going to push on forward and see what he wants to say. Like going on Alex Jones's show and the kind of shit he said is just like, who's more anti-Hitler than Alex Jones? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so I don't think I don't understand why he was spouting that, other than, Fuentes and Milo put him up to it. I know about Nick Fuentes only because, Revenge of the Sis covering him. And sort of like Mersh doing that really funny Sebastian Gorka impression, calling Nick Fuentes disgusting. But again, I have almost no relationship with the guy. He blocked me because I called him gay on Twitter. So that was fun. But other than that, I have almost no interaction with people. And it's like, I think a lot of the time people are out there sort of making, let's just say, people who question the system into like villains. Like anybody that questions the mainstream media, oh, you're associated with white supremacy. And it's like, no, that's ridiculous. That's a completely ridiculous thing to say. So again, I think it's a lot of noise and a lot of distraction. And Kanye West is a crazy person apparently, and very by a certain group of people, seemingly he's able to be manipulated. I don't know. It's weird.
And I do. There's a point to that too. How basically what he's doing and what Milo and Nick is doing is that he's trying to destroy any kind of credibility that anyone against. Well, essentially what we're going up against here is a lot of the control by the elites. People talk about and I'm not just talking about just Jews in specifically, but we talk about all the time about how we see the game that's being played here. We talk about Balenciaga. I think it was like a week or two ago about how there are a group of wealthy elite people who seem to be controlling a lot of things, that have their hands in a lot of things, and have sinister motivations behind them, right? Then we talked about how I think it was like last week we may have covered, maybe on this show or like another show that I was on, but have you guys noticed that there's been like 5 crypto billionaires who have all died in like the last like couple of weeks? And then meanwhile, this whole kid with the FTX is being brought up and paraded around on Congress, and they're trying to make a dog and pony show out of him. There's a big power play going on right now, and it seems like what's happening with Kanye West is that I don't know if he's orchestrating it, because I don't think he's smart enough to do that himself. But it feels like the people behind him are kind of orchestrating sort of like a disinformation campaign to kind of discredit anyone who will be pointing these things out, right? Because people who have been labeled conspiracy theorists have been more right than wrong about things over the last couple of years. So we need to throw somebody out there to make them less credible. And then a guy going out there saying, "Oh yeah, I like Hitler. The Jews are bad, and you guys should get over Hitler," it makes it hard for anyone to defend him at that point. Now you have everybody else running around playing defense as a result.
I mean, put it this way. If the Joker was a real person in real life, the Joker, Batman's Joker, he would hate Kanye West for his whole Hitler comments thing. Or anybody who pays attention to comics and whatnot, there was an amalgam where the Red Skull came across Hitler, or not Hitler, but came across the Joker, and the Joker's like, or immediately attacks him. He's like, "I may be a psychopath, but I'm an American psychopath."
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, it's just ridiculous that why would you burn all these bridges and then say you're running for president again?
Yeah. This is all part of his presidential campaign, by the way. So
a president, he's going to a White House, but it's going to be one that has bars and padded cells.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the White House at 1600 Penn.
What are you going to say, Cassie?
It's just weird to me because it's like the reason why I know Nick Fuentes is because I don't know if you guys know of a YouTuber named Styx Hexenhammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty much one of my favorite YouTubers when it comes to political commentary. He's sort of like he is like, since I'm libertarian, he's sort of a right-leaning libertarian, and I like to listen to him for his sort of right-leaning libertarian ways. And I also like to listen to other libertarians that are like, I like to get different levels of libertarianism. So I love listening to him. He has good thoughts and views that I think are good. And he's also a really good debater. And the reason why I know of Nick Fuentes is because Styx Hexenhammer has debated him more than once. And from what I gathered from Nick Fuentes, personally, I just think he just loves pissing people off. I mean, the dude's like 21, 22 years old. Yeah. I just feel as though he's the type of person that literally just has, like, he's a pretty good debater, especially for his age. I have to give him that. But he always seems to like to take stances that he can defend, but clearly would tick people off. Like, the last debate I had watched him with Styx Hexenhammer, he was literally essentially kind of siding with China, but the way he sort of makes that make sense. I don't personally agree with it, but I see where he was clearly coming from. But he couldn't pull that bullshit over Styx because Styx is pretty fucking smart and he's a great debater in his own right. Yeah. But yeah, he just comes off as a person that just loves to piss people off. And I feel as though he's the type of guy at this point that doesn't really have much to lose because he's already been massively canceled across the board anyway, like years ago. So I feel as though he just does this shit, and it's weird that people do. It's just weird to me that him and Kanye West are like buddies. I just didn't. That was the last thing I was really expecting. Then again, I don't keep up with the dude because, well, I don't care about him. So to me, it's shocking that this has happened. Not necessarily what Kanye West did, because we already knew that Kanye West was pretty much off the rails as it is. But to see who he holds circles with is pretty surprising to me. He definitely doesn't have level-headed people around him, because when you have 21, 22-year-old Nick Fuentes, who's the type of guy who doesn't seem to have much to lose, who loves to just be divisive, tick people off. I feel as though it is a game to him, and the thing is, he handles it intellectually. I'll give him that. Like, he's smart. He's smart in how he could basically back up the bullshit that he spews, and that's the type of guy he is. But he's not a good person to have around you. You're not going to get an honest thought from the guy. You're not going to have a level-headed thought from the guy. I don't really keep up with Milo. I know that back in the day, he definitely had his moment. Let's just put it that way. But he definitely doesn't come off as the guy that's level-headed either. Kanye needs to surround himself around people that actually, are intellectuals who do have something to lose.
Yeah. I want to hold on before I let Nerdigans go. I will let you go, but I do want to bring this up, because what I've said about Nick Fuentes is that if you actually listen to his ideas, he's basically trying to. I think the best way to describe Nick Fuentes is that he's trying to find ways to rebrand the same ideas of National Socialism, which is essentially what the Nazis stood for, but do it in a way where it's better viewed optically than doing the goose stomp and wearing the swastika and stuff like that, right? So he's basically trying to put a shiny little red bow on those same ideas. But I do want to bring this up, and I want Nerdigans to talk about this, because she has experience with these people, and it's the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Oh my god.
Hold on a second. But people have talked about, okay, why is Kanye and all of these people within this community supporting the ideas of Hitler and things of that nature? Like, why would they be supporting that? Because Hitler was definitely not a person who were for black people. And I had this exchange here. And this exchange came, I guess, a few days ago outside of Brooklyn. And in the Northeast, this is where you see a lot of these people at. So, of course, in New York is no surprise. But I want you to listen to exactly what this guy is saying. I'm not saying agree to him, but I should say listen to what he's saying. And I think you understand a lot of their mindset of why these people think that for some reason Hitler is a good guy in their mind. So I'll play this video here.
What about that?
Why don't I feel good about what Kanye is saying?
Both of them and Kyrie, what they got going on?
Well, I'll talk mainly about Kanye.
Right, what about Kanye? Why you don't feel good about what he's saying?
And he's praising...
You're half Jewish.
Yes, and he's praising Hitler, saying the Nazis were cool, and saying the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah, no, we support Hitler.
Right. All of you?
Yeah. Because Hitler was killing your people, man. Hitler knew who the real Jews was. Right? Hitler wasn't oppressing my people. He was coming for your nuts. Holy right? And let me give you a wake-up call, man. You're not a Jew. You're not Jew, right? You're the seed of the devil, man. Right? These brothers on these platforms, Kanye and Kyrie, shaking things up. It's because it's a great awakening happening. Right? The real Jews are back on the streets. And you so-called fake Jews who stole our identity are going to go into slavery. Right? Because you're not a Jew. Right?
Did the Holocaust happen?
It did happen, and we're glad that it happened.
So
that is one sick, fucked up individual.
I want you to listen to what he said there. I want you to listen to what he said here, because this is what these people believe. The reason why you're having a lot of these guys thinking that Hitler and the Nazis were good, because in their mind, first of all, black people are the real Jews in their mind. So when you have Jewish people who look like Nerdigans, they don't believe that those people are the real Jews. So when they see that Hitler killed people that looked like her, it's like, oh, well, you just helped us out. So that's how they think in their sick mind. Secondly, the reason why you have a lot of these people who are coming out here and supporting this ideology is because, like I said, you're dealing with people who are completely warped on world history. These are the people who think that blacks were like Jesus was black, and then all the history has basically been stolen from them and whitewashed for them. So it's more due to an ideology bred purely out of racism than it is that we're actually the real chosen people, so to say. But Nerdigans, you've had obviously a lot of experience with these people, especially during your time with Tommy. I mean, where do we even start from here, right?
Oh God, these people. Well, I think if I remember correctly, I think it was the black Hebrew. Was it a black Hebrew Israelite that he had a confrontation with in New York? I can't remember. This was years ago. But these people are just psycho as hell, and they're in denial to boot, as you can see.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, it's like these people don't realize that Hitler hated everyone, including black people. Yeah. He would have killed them too. Yeah. It's so stupid.
But they're so binary in their thinking. All they see is black people and white people. So they don't even see Jewish people as Jewish people. They just see them as white people.
Yeah. Well, we're white adjacent, kind of like with Asians. We're white adjacent, technically.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. But now I remember what I was going to say with Nick Fuentes, and also you could make the argument with the Black Hebrew Israelites too. But Nick Fuentes is what I like to call a clout chasing, grifting scam artist. That's what he is, or con artist. There we go. He's a clout chasing, grifting con artist. Same with the. I wouldn't say grifting in regards to the Black Hebrew Israelites. You're just more like clout chasing con artists at this point. I don't know how they get donations anyway, but Nick Fuentes is a LARPer too, but especially with what you saw in DC, if you saw like all the freaking fuckery that happened in DC, but that's a whole different thing. And I'm not talking about January. I'm not talking about January 6th either. I'm talking about what happened in the month prior.
Well, I mean, I oppose any and all class systems, and I feel as though when you get into the whole discussion of who are God's people, I feel as though that imposes a class system. And look, I'm accepting of anyone, of any religious views and all that, as long as, you're not imposing your will upon anyone else in any way. But that's why I do oppose generalized class systems that try to put, you, if it be your race, your money, whatever, above other people. For me, I'm just a regular ass person like everyone else, and I don't want to cloud my mind in thinking that I'll ever be better than anyone else. I think everyone is on the same playing field. That's how that's how I talk to people. That's how I interact with people, as though you're on the same playing field as me. And whether you're a piece of shit or not, it'll be determined by me talking to you. And if you are a piece of shit, then I go my separate ways. That's really how it goes. But yeah, this whole mindset of people believing that they are better than other people, I just can't get with it, and I feel as though it causes more problems. And I will say that some religions do lead to this sort of mindset, and that's why while I'm spiritual in some ways, I kind of don't get religion too much.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny though. I do want to bring this up because this has, in regards to like the Jewish stereotypes, especially like Jews rule the world and all that crap. A lot of it originates from back in the day when the churches were trying to indoctrinate people and keep them, from being educated, so that way they can keep control of of their people. And guess who took up all the educated jobs? Jews did, because they weren't falling for it. So that's where a lot of the stereotypes and a lot of the hatred for Jews comes from, is because the preachers told them that shit. They told them that being educated was bad. They told them that reading anything but the Bible was bad.
Oh, they didn't even like that. So William Tyndale was burned at the stake for translating the Bible into English. So,
well, the way I always saw it when I was younger is when I was told that, well, rich people or Jewish people are always rich and this stuff. I never bought into the whole stereotypical thing, because I've also seen poor or people who were poor who were also the Jewish faith. But the way that my young mind, when I was learning about money and stuff, was like, maybe they just didn't, or maybe they just knew how to handle their money a little bit better than everybody else. Maybe they didn't want material things as much, and they was able to save up a lot more money. That's how when I was a kid, I always thought about it, but now it's just I don't even want to talk about it because everybody else is like, well, if you talk about it, you're probably going to be called an anti-Semitic, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, whatever.
And then rants like this certainly don't help. But I know Rob wants to say something real quick.
No, I just want to say this because it, I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what religion you belong to. I don't care how you live your life. Okay, there are reasons to dislike most people. For me, 75% across the board. So I don't need it to be about your race. I personally will find something to dislike about you most likely. So I just want to point that out there. I'm almost there with Cassie, but I just think that comes from being bullied and having a more negative interaction with the human race in general. But really, it's like to hate somebody because of their religion always seems really stupid to me, or their race. It's like, just spend some time with people. You'll find reasons to hate them that have nothing to do with those shallow. It'll be something real. It'll be something real. You can pin. They're like, oh my god, they snore, and I can't. I literally can't stand them, or something. It's not even if it's something small like that. So there you go.
The way that I see it, I hate everyone equally.
You're all
I just hate everyone equally.
Yeah.
Well, let me go ahead and ask Rick here a quick question while he's joining us here on the show tonight. Rick, you clearly don't like Mel Gibson because you feel like he's anti-Semitic. So when are you going to your next Kanye West concert?
I'll go when he does a duet with Taylor Swift.
Fair enough. I think that's a
man. This fool.
After he interrupted her at the MTV Video Music Awards.
Yeah, and I'll spend $2,500 for a joint ticket. Yeah, so I can see them together. Yeah. That will be my threshold.
That'll probably be his apology tour. So.
Anyone have any last thoughts on this one?
I'll go ahead and take my turn. I will say for Nick Fuentes, I wanted to say something. I wanted to piggyback on what Nerdigans says. I don't think he's necessarily a grifter. I think that he actually does kind of believe what he says. I've only heard a couple of times hearing him speak and stuff.
Yeah.
And I agree with you too. He is very intellectually well versed, but a lot of what he says is. I feel like he's more like an apologist, a nationalist apologist in some level, because he does have that appearance of being intellectual. I think you really only notice some of the inconsistencies. He's got a lot of what I call the Bernie Sanders method of debating. Is like when somebody objects to something, he'll bring up a point that's not really the same thing, but kind of adjacent to it. And it's almost like you go firing around in a circle by the time you're done with it. A lot of it's circular logic is what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's some of it, I think enough of what he says, he does cite facts and stuff backed by the FBI. So enough of it is true that you can kind of, if you're easily convinced of stuff, you can probably get swept up really quickly, and I think for Kanye, just like he was saying earlier about dealing with all his lawyers and the people in the fashion industry and the banks and stuff, he's had probably a very visceral reaction to the Jewish people. I'm not talking about religion, I'm not talking about ethnicity, I'm talking about the people that he deals with face to face or somewhat face to face. So I'm imagining that it's I don't think he hates them, because he even said, he, after the Hitler line, he's like, I love all these people, and talking about forgiveness and everything. So it was definitely not his best day. Yeah. And I don't think that giving him a lot of media at the time when his children are being taken away from him, and you can see him kind of fighting for them online, where he doesn't want his daughters to have TikToks and stuff like this. Yeah. I don't think that's a good idea. This is very similar. This is actually kind of similar to what I think happened to David Hogg and the Parkland shooter incident, where you gave all these teenagers a very public position to mourn, and it just ends up being divisive. So
I will say this too before we move on to our next subject. This whole thing with Kanye started over him having a breakdown in his marriage and the relationship and the custody of his children. And I think that probably drives a lot of his anger and a lot of his frustration. And to that, I say, for any single guys out there who don't have kids yet, this is why you need to be very, very careful about the women you choose to have kids with. Because you can also make an argument that, well, the Kardashians aren't exactly what I would use as the model picture of mothers in modern society. And the reality is that Kanye has 4 kids with Kim Kardashian. And I think that maybe if that wasn't the case, he would probably be slightly happier than he is right now. But no, you have to deal with reality. You have to deal with the choices that you make at the end of the day. So
I feel sorry that man breeded with a Kardashian
4 times.
Did he take his own advice and get that prenup?
I mean, he's losing a lot of money right now, so I would hope so. That's all I can say.
I mean, look at every man that's been in a relationship with any of the Kardashians. They don't come out with either all their marbles or all their
balls
body parts.
sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
like-
I knew you were going. I knew somebody was going there.
Yeah,
All the men
it's really-
and all the men in that family are completely ruined or like shells of themselves. Some of them are pretending to be women even. So I mean, it's not a really healthy family dynamic on any level if you're a man.
Clearly.
Yeah, don't be so blinded by the BBL that you can't think straight. That's all.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
if
saying.
you're
to you
real
guys out there.
conspiracy theorists, the Twitter files dropped this week and stuff. So I'm sure some of this is exaggerated for some kind of cover effect, if you want to play that game too. So
Exactly. Everyone's talking about Kanye. No one's talking about the crypto billionaires just mysteriously dying at very young ages at a time where there's a government push for digital bank central currency. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of this has to do with the timing as well. But we're going to move on to our next topic here. Now, we're going to brighten things up. And we're going to talk about our good buddy Rob's favorite director of all time. We're going to talk about the film Blonde. Now, I know myself have seen Blonde. Rob's seen it. Rick has seen it. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen the film Blonde, but it's essentially a fictionalized biopic of Marilyn Monroe that focuses more on her life outside of the limelight than her being a movie star. And there's a lot of traumatic events that happen throughout the course of the film. There's events of essentially rape. There's events of, her being forced to have an abortion. There's emotional, physical abuse through her mother, things of that nature. It's a very, very traumatic movie. And for a couple of reasons, it's gotten a bad rap of critics. Now, we talked about this on the Barroom podcast a couple months back, if you remember, how Planned Parenthood came out against this film, saying that it had a pro-life message because the character of Marilyn Monroe was forced to have an abortion on a couple of occasions, and she didn't go shout her abortion, and she wasn't very happy about it. So they thought that they were portraying it in a negative light, which is one of the reasons why critics didn't like the film. But now the director of the film is coming out and saying that he's basically saying, look, these people want to portray Marilyn Monroe as a strong female lead, the strong woman, and that wasn't really the case, and that's not really what we're going for in this film. So Andrew Dominik, the director and writer of this film, didn't hold back on critics this week. He says that when he was basically defending himself and defending the film against the harsh criticisms, he says that I'm Australian, I'm from Melbourne, I come from an age of the 80s when to offend your audience was solemn duty, he explained. The movie business has become less and less like that. The movie business and society in general has become very concerned with not offending people. He adds that there's a motive behind it, which I think is they want to be sensitive, but I don't think that rewriting the truth about things is the right way. What they want is a hierarchy. They want the celebration of that person according to the mores of the time. Now we're living in a time where it's very important to present women as empowered. They want to reinvent Monroe as an empowered woman. He goes on to say that I think her actual life was way worse than the film. If you spent 70 years enjoying a fantasy of a person, then a movie comes along that says that she was not complicit in your enjoyment, it puts you in an uncomfortable position for having enjoyed it. People don't want to be put in that position. They want her to be the one that created their enjoyment and was along for the ride. Then they had a bad year. Then they had a bad year and killed herself. That is not the way that the world works. There's no redemption in suicide. What they said is that the movie exploited her, which is kind of strange because she's dead. What does that really mean that the film exploited her memory and her image? Which is fair enough. It does. It's trying to take things that you're familiar with and turn the meaning of them inside out. That's what they don't like. So he also, when you compare the modern audiences to children who know every word of a story when it brings them comfort, but I don't make bedtime stories. So he says that the criticism of Blonde has nothing to do with being offensive. I think this is Nolte talking. He's talking about the pacing of the film, especially in the final half hour, which I agree with. I think that's probably the biggest knock on the film is that it's a little too long and it does drag on in the third act. But a lot of these other things that people are bringing up, saying that, oh, well, it's against abortion, against Planned Parenthood, or, oh, you're not portraying her as a strong woman. I think you're missing the bigger picture here, is that you're telling the story of a woman who was used and abused quite literally in the industry of Hollywood. That, we watch her old films and we talk about, oh, she was just popular icon. It's like, yeah, there's pretty dark reality about her life as well, which is why she didn't make it to 40. So, Rob, I know you've been a big fan of Dominik and his work, and you heard his words there. What do you think about what he has to say about Blonde and kind of the criticism of it?
Well, this is a movie for adults. This is a movie for someone, audiences that actually want to invest in the art form of cinema, and not necessarily be spoon-fed and not be, sort of like tucked into bed at night for a nice bedtime story. They don't want childish superhero narratives. And that's wonderful. It's refreshing because we haven't really had a lot of adult movies come out of Hollywood in the last decade. And the ones that haven't been very good. And I'll say this, Blonde is flawed. It has its issues. But I really like the places it went because it's not a comforting movie. It's a movie about the Hollywood system and how it takes, someone and turns them into a celebrity. And for Marilyn Monroe, she was not a very good actress in reality. And so she was a model who basically did the best she could, but really didn't belong there. She didn't. She wasn't a very skilled actor. But the movie portrays it as a living nightmare. It portrays it as something wholly empathetic, and I don't know how you watch it and don't come away with feeling something for her. Instead, it's anti-abortion. Why? Because she wanted to have the baby that she had a miscarriage with, and then before that, was forced to have the abortion. I mean, it just doesn't track. It doesn't make any sense if you paid attention to the movie. So, I don't know. I think it's a lot of like hand wringing and people making excuses as to not invest their time with the movie. But, everybody's entitled to their opinion, certainly.
I'll go ahead with Rick, since you also seen the movie. So what is your thoughts on basically what he said there?
Well, first, people need to remember that this is based on a novel. This is not a biopic. And I'm tiring of reminding people that this is not a biopic. This is a fictionalized version of her life.
Yeah.
I do see the movement to make Marilyn Monroe into this empowered woman. I think I mentioned that CNN had that reframed Marilyn Monroe series, and I saw about an episode or two, and they were basically talking about how she was empowered when she posed nude for that calendar. She was empowered when she went into films to make to do a production company and all that. I don't know if that's rewriting history. There were certainly strong women, but there weren't a lot of women in power. And even when they did get power, it sometimes was something that did not turn out well. Elizabeth Taylor, for example, she had director approval, which had never been given to an actor or actress, and for that movie was Cleopatra, and Cleopatra did not exactly turn out, as well as people thought it would have. I don't. Again, I don't know if it's rewriting history, but it is trying to put Monroe in our time, trying to shape her into how we see her, or how people today want to shape her. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not really sold on this idea. As for his idea about was it babies? Yes, he has a point because I think people do want that. I mean, that's why we have all of these superhero movies, and we have all of these very shallow portrayals of men and women and romance right now. I mean, there's something positive about that in a sense. You know, sometimes you do want that kind of what is it, Hallmark type movie where you just 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 sit there and enjoy it and just let it wash over you. But for Blonde, yeah, it's yeah, that's I don't have much to add to what Rob said other than remember this is not a biopic. This
Well,
is an adaptation of a novel that uses Monroe to talk about things like celebrity, like women in the lack of power that they have in the film industry. It's not a biopic. And I hear some people saying that's not an excuse to show the rape. That's not an excuse to show the abortion. Well, if you have issues, take it up with Joyce Carol Oates, who wrote the novel. Don't take it up with Andrew. Was it Andrew Dominik, who
yeah.
just adapted
Well,
it?
and the idea that she's not an empowered woman, she's not a heroic figure, it's like, okay, that's like you, you're supposed to empathize with the character. You're supposed to empathize with her going through all this shit. And I think that Ana de Armas does a great job making her sympathetic, making the audiences feel empathy for her. But this idea that she has to be like perfect and idealized in every facet of her life. What happened? Like, what happened to like women finding like the rough parts of life, like identifying with a woman, trying to find someone to love her, trying to find purpose in life. Like, to me, that's something to identify with because life is a struggle. Life is a flawed experience. And so, again, I like these movies that go into those difficult places, if only because, I don't know, movies just don't seem to do that anymore. So, again, I can understand people feeling discomfort or not wanting to watch it again, but just like try to be honest with what the thing is, not what you want it to be.
Yes,
I
Monroe
think
was troubled and Monroe had issues, but she also rose above some of those issues to create these wonderful moments in film that people still love to see. That's why she is still a star long after she has passed, when some of her other contemporaries have been forgotten. People don't remember people like Betty Grable or Betty Hutton as much as they do Marilyn Monroe. She broke through, not just because she was a beautiful woman, but because she delighted audiences. So I don't know if this is that idea of turning women into Mary Sue's, and they want to make Marilyn Monroe
Yeah.
real life Mary Sue,
Hmm.
but I defer. I defer
I,
more to the women here.
I noticed that a lot of people that want Marilyn Monroe to be the impenetrable blonde bombshell of a character, like they see her as fiction. It feels like that she wasn't a real person, because like anybody that has lived life knows that there are ups and downs. You'll have challenges in your life, and Marilyn Monroe was a real life person that faced a lot of hardships even from childhood. She had uh, she had a mother that was mentally ill, and she had to deal with that shit. She was dealing with some sort of mental illness herself. It seemed like, and she was in an industry that absolutely used her, and in some ways, she overcame a lot of these things, and some of these things she could not overcome. And that is a story that is worth sharing in an honest way, as a ways of teaching. But the thing is, people, a lot of leftists that will say, don't really want to teach lessons. They think that women should just be raised on a high pedestal at the top just because they have a vagina, and it's just, this is not how it works. You are just you're just creating women to not be able to deal with any fucking hardships at all, and by doing that, you guys are pieces of shit. Okay, leftists are fucking retarded when it comes to this stuff. You need to one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee is, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the ability to deal with a difficult one. That is how we need to be as people, because life isn't going to be handed to you. Life isn't going to be easy. You're going to come across things that are very difficult to overcome. We all have our demons, if they be, self-inflicted demons or demons that are bestowed upon us from the world itself. And that is something I think that's memorable about Marilyn Monroe. She's very sympathetic. I sympathize with Marilyn Monroe. I know a lot of people, in some ways, may not, but I did know a little bit of her backstory. I didn't watch this movie, but Marilyn Monroe is one of those few stars I do actually kind of feel genuinely bad for. And let's be real now, like, how she died is pretty fucking sus. I do not think it's suicide, but that is just my personal thoughts. I can't say whether it's true or not, but yeah, up until the very end, she was dealing with some shit. Let's just put it that way. And
sorry.
Go ahead, Nerdigans, you're fine.
Go ahead.
But here's what bothers me the most, because this is what's been happening for a while now, is people can't handle shit that is uncomfortable, and I have to deal with it all the goddamn time. It's like, dude, this is freaking art. It's supposed to make you feel something. If it's uncomfortable, why? Talk about it. Then you have these people, and it's I have to deal with it in anime Twitter and manga Twitter all the time, that will say that they want to protect women or like underage raw characters, and it's only the girls that they want to protect. They don't give a shit about the boys. They do not care about them at all. But the girls, they have to protect, period. Reason why I bring that up is because that's what's happening here with Marilyn Monroe and a lot of the female characters here, where they have to be up on this high pedestal and have to be like innocent and pure and like pure Mary Sue's. Whereas the men, it don't matter. Nah, the men can go through all the struggles and stuff, but the women can't. The women have to be pure.
Well, I want to ask this question, and maybe Johnson and Orange Chat can lead into this, because Neil actually brings up a good point, and Rob did kind of talk about this as well. Cate Blanchett and Emily Blunt both slammed the portrayal of strong female leads because it doesn't bring any interesting development as far as their character goes. And I do agree with that. And I think what's happened here, especially in modern filmmaking, and a lot of these modern films that you're seeing here, is that they don't want to portray women to have any kind of struggles like whatsoever. So it's like you get these female characters and they're great at everything right away. They're especially better than their male counterparts right away. So it gives them essentially no build to anything, because you already give them everything right out of the gate, and then you expect the audience to just embrace them for nothing. Essentially, you expect them to just be fully loved by the audience because you put this Mary Sue character out there, and then when people don't like that, then you think, okay, well, the problem is you guys, the audience, for not accepting us. We're not the problem here. Do you think that has a lot to do with kind of what Dominik's talking about, how people recepted this film?
Actually, yes.
Well, go ahead, Johnson.
No, I was going to say, go ahead. I'm formulating my answer.
Well, the way I see it, basically, they have a good point. Emily Blunt and Cate Blanchett both are basically saying, what's the point with all these strong female leads if you don't see what makes them strong? If you don't see the process of building them into it? And that is what Hollywood is failing to grasp. Women are strong, but it's not just because they're women and they got a vagina or tits. It's because they have something that makes them strong. It's values. It's their moral compass. It's not the fact that they don't got a dick and that they're somehow greater than man. Nobody, or men and women, were never supposed to be 100% equal in everything. That's not how we were created. And yet, Hollywood wants to push this. And I think that some actors and actresses are finally catching on to this and saying, gosh, this is such a turnoff. No wonder people are saying that this crap is happening. And it's kind of hilarious that Emily Blunt is saying this because a few years back, during the whole, or when somebody asked her about the Edge of Tomorrow sequel and whatnot, she there was some interview I saw. It's like, well, I was very, and she went into talking about the whole making of the Edge of Tomorrow film, where she's like, I was kind of very intimidated because I was the only woman there and whatnot. It's like, bitch, you weren't the only woman there. There was other female characters there. You may have been standing next to Tom Cruise, but because she did dive into she dived on that, or she jumped on that train with identity politics for a while.
Yeah, there's a few statements she's made in the past. I think she has toned it down over the last recent years. I think it's probably a lot to do with when she started doing the Quiet Place movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of that rhetoric got toned down, because the thing that make A Quiet Place such a great film is that she's being portrayed in the film as a strong female character who's also a mother. And the ring what makes her strong is that she's in the essentially the apocalypse, trying to do whatever she can to save her husband and kids.
Not only that woman freaking gave birth to a kid and somehow stayed alive in a time where you're supposed to be absolutely quiet or else you're dead.
Yep.
I mean, you can't get much stronger than that, because the amount of pain of giving birth to a child will kill an adult male human.
I think what hurts like a actress that's looking for that right role, when they look at these strong female lead characters that they don't have any character arc whatsoever, it doesn't give the actress the opportunity to earn the love of the audience, to earn the audience's sympathy, and to get the audience to back them in a genuine way, in a genuine buildup. It's not possible. And if you as an actress don't have the material to be able to do that, it's disappointing. It sucks. And I think that they're realizing that.
Well, think about the worst, like the best version of what that is, right? Of like the sort of strong female lead. It's like the Charlize Theron character, and so like Atomic Blonde, Furiosa, like, you know what I mean? Like that's the best version of what that could possibly be, simply because we don't have any character development. We just have this sort of created out of nothing character who overcomes all the challenges, doesn't slip up, doesn't face adversity one iota. They're just always there standing at the end. And it's like, okay, there's nothing here to root for. There's nothing worth celebrating here. It's just, I don't know if it's just narcissism or like blatant female tokenism, but it sucks. It's like,
what it is?
Ellen Ripley, like that's a developed character from start to finish. That's an amazing character, regardless of the fact that she's a woman or not. Just as a character in a narrative, it's incredible.
What it is? It's that they've taken the journey completely out of these characters. It's like it's like I said with Ripley, right? Imagine starting her story like Alien Resurrection, and then just going from there, like just completely disregarding everything that led up to that film, and then present like, oh yeah, strong female character. It's like no one's gonna accept that.
Well, I'd add Sarah Connor also, because she developed from the first to the second Terminator, from probably a weakish woman, but she had a certain strength as well, to being this very strong female character. You talk about strong female characters, that would be her. And I was thinking about what they did with Rey in the new Star Wars films, where she was practically, she was Mary Poppins. She was practically perfect in every way. And I remember and I think I put this on Twitter, when they were fighting, when she and Emo Vader were fighting, and he was like, join me, I can train you. I did actually say in the theater, why? She's doing a pretty good job already. She ought to be training you.
like what's great about Terminator to Terminator 2 with Sarah Connor is that Sarah in Terminator 1 completely doubted herself. She's like, you think I'm going to be the fucking mother of the future? I can't even balance my own checkbook. And it's like, she, for the sake of the future, for the sake of her son, for the sake of everything that she knows, she was willing to rise up to meet the occasion for the necessity of preserving humanity. And then what's genius about Aliens, the sequel to Alien, really is just how they they give Ellen Ripley's character motivation through basically being a mother to this parentless child, and the way they do it is absolutely genius. It instantly, as a viewer, gets you completely behind her. You want her to protect this little girl that she clearly wants to be a figure to be the protector of, and just movie making ways like that are just absolutely genius, simplistic in nature, in with Aliens particularly, and even with Terminator, simplistic in motherhood, and they completely ignore that entirely in modern day movie making.
And the same goes with A Quiet Place, because it was what her love for children that was the one a motivating factor to keep them safe and to fight off these monsters. So I mean, right or wrong, it seems that motherhood or the mother instinct is a strong motivator to have strong female characters versus a lot of what we've seen now with the Captain Marvels and the was it the Atomic Blondes and
Well, now we have actresses that are willing to murder their unborn child in order to seek stardom. So I mean, that's normalized. So it's like no wonder why you guys can't make any fucking characters we feel anything for.
and maybe that's why people are upset when it comes to Blonde, because in the film, Monroe doesn't want that. I mean, she does want to be a mother, and she not only regrets the abortion that she was forced into. I mean, she was forced into it, and she kept saying, "No, stop! I don't want this. I don't want this." But she was forced into it. So maybe that's why they're upset, because it suggests that no, being a mother or even a mother figure is somehow wrong, and I don't know if that's. I don't think that was the intent. Again, he was adapting the novel as pretty much as it was written, because I saw the miniseries that it was based on, and they pretty much hit that same beat. I mean, we didn't get to see the point of view of the baby, but it's pretty. I mean, it has that same line when she's at the Gentlemen Prefer Blondes premiere, and she says, "For this, I killed my baby." I mean, I think in both the movie and TV movie, or TV miniseries, they had that same line, because that is her perspective. It's not it might not be the audience perspective. It's her perspective, as envisioned by Joyce Carol Oates and the people who adapted the novel. It doesn't have to correspond to what I think or what the another audience member thinks.
Well, when it
I'll
comes to
let
the strong,
Johnson wrap it this one
oh,
up.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when it comes to the strong female lead, like people like kind of attached to the strong part of that, and like the part that we really kind of need to focus on is the female part. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but a lot of the
No, it's
times that like you get a strong female lead, a lot of the time it's just like a man with boobs type of situation.
Yes.
And men and women are fundamentally different. And again, I'll probably get sacked for saying this, but it's basic biology that women and men have very different brains. And it's not just because I'm married to like a neuroscientist that I know this. you know, like the hemispheres are different. Women are wired for community and communication, and that's why like we are more occupied with like getting people together and keeping things nice, and so everybody can kind of get along. Men are more ambitious, and they're built for adventure. They're built for just to go out on those quests. That's why it's the hero's journey where you get the call to adventure. Now when women do this, it's very different. I mean, you have different it because they have to pretty much go against their nature. I mean, there's a big long couple of spats on Twitter this week about Mary Sue stuff and everything, but it's like women, so like, yeah, women and men are different, so you're not going to have the same sort of thing. And when women go through this sort of journey, it does make me really kind of like, I roll my eyes too at the strong female character, because it's not like the strong part comes from your conviction. Okay, if you have any strong character, if you look at all of them, there's something that's distinctively passionate about them. For the female part, I think part of the reason that there are a lot of good mother figures in fiction, like Ripley and like the mother from A Quiet Place, and you have people that are very concerned about other people. That's a very, like they're, it's not just a matter of personal survival, it's about everybody survives type stuff. And that's a very distinctively feminine, motherly sort of trait. Like I am the mom in the family. I have to make sure that like even if my husband is really ambitious in one area, I have to make sure that the rest of us are able to be like survive being dragged along. That's what I say to excuse the fact that I'm usually the last one when we go biking. You know, my husband will go first, my son will go next, my daughter will go next, and I will stay behind to make sure everybody is together. You know, that's just how people move. It's like your left foot and your right foot. You need both, but they're different.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, it's like what they're presenting to you, what Hollywood is presenting is that they're presenting women in the role of men. That's like they've completely rejected all aspects of femininity whatsoever, and essentially they want 80s action movies starring women who are like a third of the size of the 80s action stars, and for them that's progress.
Well, and then on top of that, you have the problem of they're trying to like glamorize the 80s action hero man with boobs thing.
Yeah.
Those actors like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and you know, the others, the other three I can't think of.
Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme,
Chuck Norris.
Bruce
Norris.
Yeah. I mean, like these are like gritty men. Even if they're attractive, they're not attractive because they're beautiful men necessarily. You know, like these are people that know how to work and they've had that grit in their life. That's come from failing so many times. And I don't think first of all, men become more attractive the more that they suffer. I think that's just got to be said. You know, my husband can attest to this. And then, because women want men that are capable of a large amount of suffering. So there you go, men. Your pep talk of the day.
The whole idea that women are not naturally like psychopaths just doesn't hold up with what she just said. So I just want to point that out. I'm glad that
Rob, she's basically telling you that you need to get a Scarface scar across your eye, and then all the women will be dying to be with you.
I literally have a scar right here from my brother when I was like 3. So yeah,
there's
hilarious.
a difference between being capable to deal with suffering and then just suffering because you're inept at suffering. Okay.
There you go.
All right, and then the second point of that is like women today, especially like the women critics and the feminized sort of culture that would come from this kind of like critical backlash, is that they don't really know what true suffering is on some level. And yes, probably some of them have killed their children, and that's awful. But like the idea that they they truly suffer, whether getting their Starbucks lattes and their mani-pedis and these wine ants sort of movement, it's just kind of laughable. I mean, like if they're all like She-Hulk, I mean, like look at that, I mean, like this person that has an insane amount of goodwill given to her for no reason. He's just terrible person.
But she's had to keep silent whenever someone says something mean about her. So she's had to control her anger longer.
I thought discretion was supposed to be the better part of valor, and that's a very masculine sort of trait.
Well, hold on. I'm glad you guys are all bringing this up right now because this segues perfectly into our next conversation. Actually, our next couple of conversations. So keep this theme going here for a second. Now, who here likes John Wick? Raise your hand.
Never seen it.
Never seen it.
Okay, remember to throw rocks at Nerdigans and Rick. So, but
I watch modern films in the West. I just don't.
I still need to ask my pastor why he doesn't like it and why he discourages.
Oh God, we're not having this conversation again.
Nerdigans, why do you choose to live in California when you could be in Japan
or Korea?
Because I like my First and Second Amendment rights.
I don't know. For you, maybe it'd be worth it with how deeply invested you are.
I don't watch any movies from the East, so it's perfect. So there you go.
Well, as we all know, Ana de Armas is working on a John Wick spinoff right now called Ballerina, and I believe they just went into production this week. So this is something that they're going to be filming. I think that's going to be coming out shortly after John Wick 4. So probably either be later next year or like early 2024, one of those times. So this is a film that they're working on. A lot of actors from the John Wick universe are pretty much going to be a part of this film. You're going to see a lot of people from the John Wick franchise in this film. So this is all supposed to be in the same universe. But the question is, are they going to essentially replace Ana de Armas have her replace Keanu Reeves? Is this going to be a replacement film for John Wick 5? And that's the question that Screen Rant here is asking. And they bring up a couple of interesting points here. So like I said, everything pretty much was stated. Everything that I said here is that the film is going to be the next film after John Wick 4, which comes out early next year. That film's not releasing until 2023. This one's currently in production now, so it'll be somewhere after that. And it's known that Ian McShane is going to be in the film. Angela Houston is going to be in the movie as well, and reprising their roles. So we're already building a little cinematic universe here. But the question is that could Ballerina be a better franchise than John Wick 5? And people are pointing out how, as of right now, there's no plans for a John Wick 5. They're only doing John Wick 4. Obviously, if John Wick 4 does a lot of money and there's still a lot of interest for it, I'm pretty sure they will do it. But I think some people are hedging their bets that Ballerina could be the turn for this franchise by moving it away from Keanu Reeves and giving it to Ana de Armas. And I think Screen Rant also noted that as of right now, because of that fact, that there is no plans for any future films with that one, so they can easily shift it. It seems like something that Hollywood likes doing right now is shifting franchises away from men who establish them to female counterparts. So it's like whenever you have a male-dominated universe or male-dominated franchise, we have to find some kind of way to shift that into the hands of female, and that's going to come up in our next topic after this one. But I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on here. What do you think about the Ballerina spinoff? Do you like Ana de Armas in this role? And would you accept Ana de Armas taking over the John Wick franchise in a more female-laden Black Widow direction? Or do you think this is just another Hollywood failure of an idea waiting to happen? I'll start with Rob, since Ana de Armas is your favorite actress of all time.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's funny because Ana de Armas, when nobody knew who she was in a movie with Keanu Reeves called Knock Knock. Eli Roth. It was a terrible movie, by the way. It's god awful. But because I didn't realize I'd seen Ana de Armas like naked before, and I just I had no idea. It was like, oh, that was her because she's a blonde in that, and not like a Marilyn Monroe blonde either. So look, I have no idea if she's even good in action movies. She wasn't very good in The Gray Man, but I don't think that was her fault. I mean, if it's the same director and the same writing team, I would give it a shot, but I can't imagine Ana de Armas is interested in taking over the John Wick franchise. You know what I mean? Like, so, but you pay an actor enough money, I don't think they really give a shit. So, I'm not really looking forward to it if they decide to go forward with that, basically replacing Keanu Reeves. But I also don't think there's that much life left in the John Wick franchise. You know what I mean? It's going to start to get really stale past this fourth one is pushing it.
Yeah, I said this at the end of the third one. It's like, okay, look, you guys, you had a good run here, but you got to wrap this up, because now it's gotten to a point where it's starting to get really ridiculous. I know people saw the trailer for the fourth one. It's like, oh, look at all the kills and stuff like that. It's like you can only do that so many times till people start to get tired for it. I think you guys have crossed the line there. But Orange Hat, would you accept the Ballerina over John Wick?
Well, I do kind of agree with you in a little bit, or in a way, that they do got to close out the Wick book, or the Book of Wick, because that's what I call it, because they go by chapters.
Yeah.
And chapter 4 does seem to be a conclusive concluding chapter. That's what I think that's what I said during my trailer reaction. As for her being in the universe and being a ballerina and whatnot, I would have to see it, because honestly, I have been seeing a lot of whole rumor mill shit going on. And yeah, I know that that there's plans for this to happen. But honestly, until I see a trailer, I am not going to make any sort of prediction on how it's going to turn out, if it's going to be woke or anything. Because honestly, if the last couple of years have taught me anything, there have been some movies that have been marketed as woke as fuck and turned out not to be woke at all.
Yeah.
Or to be like maybe 5 to 10% woke, if at all. Prey being one of them. But this movie, I mean, I like the Wickverse because it's got an interesting system. I mean, honestly, I think that Assassin's Creed might actually fit in with it. But I honestly don't know much about Ana de Armas to really say one way or another if it's going to be good or not, because I haven't seen much of her movies and such. Because honestly, it's like if she tries to talk about this stuff or try to push activism, fine, that's a red flag. But I do want to see a trailer, and eventually I'll take a look at it. I always say this: I'm going to take a look at your first movie of what you're doing. If you can't get me hooked after 15 minutes, your movie sucks. So I'll see this movie if it eventually comes down the line. But as for your point as to switching from male lead to female lead, they've been doing, or that is also a red flag. So I do find that somewhat worrying because Hollywood has been pushing it too much. Hopefully, though, if more actresses like Kate Blanchett and Emily Blunt come out saying, look, stop portraying us like this and start being smart about it. Because if you actually look at the Wick movies, they've actually been done pretty well. Lionsgate is not really, when they're doing the Wick movies, they're not focusing on identity politics. They're actually focusing on telling the story, doing some good gratuitous violence, and making sure everybody's entertained. So if they're smart about this, and if they're having the same crew handle it, I think that there might actually be a good version of this.
I want to bring up something that Cassie said real quick. She did bring up the whole Harrison Ford. There's your another example of Disney on another Hollywood studio taking a franchise away from a male and handing it off to a female. So this seems to be
I mean,
the trend here.
This has been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Where, and I've commented that it's interesting that people in Hollywood change the gender of an established character, and from male to female. I don't think we've ever seen female to male, or very rarely, and expect the same result. We saw this with Terminator, where we had to have the female Terminator take the place of the male Terminator or in what was it,
Three.
Dark Fate, or Dark Fate.
Yeah.
And then we've had what is it, Furiosa now, who's going to take the place of Mad Max, and we've seen this in a lot of the Marvel movies. You could make an exception for Black Panther because of Chadwick Boseman's death. Kind of, they thought maybe would be better, but we saw this with Doctor Who. And you've commented, Jacob, about all the other Marvel characters that are also going from male to female, and they expect the same result. I saw this with Doctor Who, where they changed the character from male to female because it's time. It's time we had a female doctor. Did they get the same results? No, because you are changing something that is already long established. You don't need this. You can create your own character, your own female character, and see that works. It did work actually with Doctor Who, where you could have had the female Time Lord Romana take over. With regards to this ballerina, I again, I'm not being versed in the John Wick universe, although they did send me one of the films as a screener, but um, I don't have a problem with it as I understand it because she's not literally taking John Wick's place. She's not going to say I'm the new John Wick. She's being spun off. You know, this is going to be her own series. She's just the character that came in from the John Wick universe and then is going to go off on her own adventures. I think that's slightly different. But somebody brought up James Bond. I mean, they had this where they had that issue where they were trying to suggest that was it Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch 007, yeah.
Yes, she was going to be the new black female Bond, and then they kind of said, well, no, not really. She's just taking the number until the old Bond comes back, or until the old 007 comes back. It's not quite the same thing. But there's a difference between suggesting a spin-off like they did with Halle Berry as when she was Jinx in or was it one of the Bond films, and just saying we're going to replace this character with a female equivalent, or not even a female equivalent. It's going to be literally the same character. I don't think it's ever worked, and I don't think it would work here if they decided that was it Ballerina was going to be the new John Wick. I mean, it would be a different story. It wouldn't make any sense. A spin-off is fine if you have a character that apparently enough people are interested in to follow her journey. But just literally replacing it, going from a male Terminator to a female Terminator, from a male Doctor to a female Doctor, from a male Mad Max to a female Mad Max. If you just change that so that you could have quote representation and equality, it's never going to work. You've never seen, as far as I know, changing Charlie's Angels into a group of all men, because that's different. You've never had, and think about it. I've brought this up with other people. When you had the $6 million man, what did they do? They found that they had one character who was popular, and then they decided to spin her off into the Bionic Woman, and that had its own that became successful as well. So just changing the character from male to female and expecting the exact same results and the exact same popularity and the exact same level of creative achievement, or even just fun. I don't think we've had a case where that's worked. Let's see. Let's make Ripley into a man. Let's just change Ripley into a man and see what the response would be. I'm just curious what would happen.
I just want to could present this video real quick with no context whatsoever.
И если вдруг кто-то не понял, для вас объясняю еще раз. Смонтируем же потом, да? И если вдруг кто-то не
Yeah, so
понял,
that's great.
Look,
That's why the Ukrainians are losing.
I think it's too early to jump to conclusions on this. Like Rick is saying, it is a spinoff. I will say if they do try to use to basically replace Keanu Reeves / John Wick with Ana de Armas' character, that's literally just going to hurt her in the end. I don't think that's necessarily the case with this situation, but could be wrong. But we have to see. What I feel would be interesting is if they do develop a character. I mean, like at this point, we've all come to the conclusion that John Wick is going to wear itself out sooner, probably rather than later. So, what's a way to reinvigorate this franchise if they want to continue to do it? And maybe my thought is, well, let's do this spin-off to develop this character, maybe have a crossover between John Wick and Ana de Armas' character in a John Wick 5. So you do have an introduced character that maybe has a face-off or eventually joins forces with John Wick. Somebody that's fully developed in their own film. Maybe whether the success of Ballerina is dependent on if that could proceed. So maybe that's the case. You know, we can throw shit at the wall, you know, but we don't really know because it's too early on. I don't think that they're stupid enough to do this because, well, they kind of kept out of the whole identity politics route this entire time. So to suddenly flip that on its head is essentially, you know, you're just nuking one of the most successful action franchises right now. So.
And I mean, there's an example I want to point to, you know, from the mid '90s, which kind of tried this and was somewhat successful. Like, there's this movie, The Quick and the Dead, directed by Sam Raimi, and it's like, you know, it's a western. It's like a spaghetti western or a revisionist western, but it's Sharon Stone as the protagonist. You know what I mean? And I kind of think the movie falls apart towards the end, but it's a really entertaining like movie mostly from start to finish. Again, I think it has issues, and maybe some people on the panel like it, but like again, it's very difficult to try to make a man into a woman or a woman into a man. It's just like each sex has their own characteristics that play themselves out in a well-balanced narrative. It doesn't really work when you try to fit a square peg in a round hole.
So, any last thoughts on this? Because this is actually going to jump us into our next topic here, which is just the kind of replacing of male to female characters as it is. But anyone else have the thoughts about the future of John Wick?
I'll go ahead and say stuff because, I'm the expert. No, I don't think it's fair to be like, this should have the same level of love as this former thing did. For one thing, like I said, men and women are different. You should have, instead of looking for like the same thing, I think looking for complementarianism in that regard is good. Like, oh, this is what I really love about John Wick, and then over here, this other thing, it should have something that's different. But it's like sushi and ice cream, like this stuff's really good, and then this stuff over here is good too. So, but they're not the same.
No.
By the way, you guys come visit me. We'll go for sushi and ice cream.
I'd rather go
not in that order. I mean, I want sushi then ice cream.
Either or, I'm cool with either or. But the second part is, I agree, it's a spinoff. It has the potential to be a good story if you think about like how she ties in, like, and I'm not talking like backstory necessarily, but like a journey from like at what point does her life intersect with John Wick, and how does she walk away changed, and what's her goal now that she's been changed. I think that's if she meets him and she's like suddenly sorry for all the lives that she's destroyed, and she makes it a mission to like never kill again, kind of like going on this path of personal development, but she's tested with this or something, or she's faced with the option to like protect somebody, and she has to kill somebody to protect this other person. I mean, like those are compelling stories and I think too, keeping true to the strong female character argument that I made earlier, she has to have a distinctively woman's journey. Like, how is this different? How is healing different for women? I don't like that people buy that it's just the same thing, because it's not. Women and men process things differently.
Well, let's go on to our next topic here, because this is something that I wanted to talk about, because it goes into kind of our last couple of discussions here. And apparently, from rumors inside of Disney, they're internally freaking out about the future of the MCU. And here's what's essentially happening here. They're freaking out about the future of the MCU because they know what they want to do with the MCU moving forward, but they're afraid that the audience, people who are paying their money to go watch these films and everything that's on Disney Plus and whatnot, are not going to be very acceptive to what the future beholds. And what they're doing is that they're essentially replacing all of the male superheroes with female counterparts. Now, this is not a secret. This is something Disney has been doing for years. We talked about Indiana Jones a little bit ago, and it's very prevalent right now in the MCU. So let me read you some of the projects that are coming up in MCU's Phase 5. Now, you might have heard some of these before, but I really want to hammer down the point of what's coming up here. You have Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, which comes out in February, where the rumor is that they're probably going to get rid of Scott Lang as Ant-Man and replace him with his daughter. She'll be the new Ant-Woman, or whatever the case is. You have Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is probably going to be the end of the Guardian saga. You have the Marvels, which is Captain Marvel 2, which is also going to have Monica Rambeau and Miss Marvel in the film. You have Captain America New World Order, which was going to be with Black Captain America. You have Thunderbolts, which is essentially the Marvel version of Suicide Squad. And there's been talks about having Julia Louis-Dreyfus have become the new Nick Fury in this universe as well. You have Blade coming out in 2024, which, if you haven't heard the recent rumor on Blade, is that they're going to essentially replace him with his daughter, and his daughter will take the mantle of Blade. So that should be fun for all you guys that are actually looking forward to that movie. Then you have the Disney Plus series, which is What If. You have the the Secret Invasion, which is the Nick Fury series. You have Echo, which is the famous Native American gay one-legged superhero who's also deaf. Loki Season 2, Ironheart, which is female Iron Man. You have Agatha, which is the WandaVision spinoff, and then Daredevil, right? That's your Phase 5, by the way. And then Phase 6, the only thing that's been announced so far is Deadpool 3, Fantastic Four, and 2 Avengers movies. Now, I also want to throw this at you as well, because I think this hammers down the point even further, is that in the future, here are the female heroes that the MCU has set up for the future as of this moment. You have Brie Larson, Captain Marvel. You have Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. You have Echo with Maya Lopez. You have gender swap Ghost. You have gender swap Taskmaster. You have White Widow. You have Kate Bishop taking over for Hawkeye. You have Ironheart. You have Miss America. You have Charlize Theron playing the female Doctor Strange. You have She-Hulk. You have Spectrum. You have Stinger, which is the female Ant-Man. And then, of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And let's not forget Shuri taking over as Black Panther. So if you guys haven't figured it out, there's going to be a lot of female representation in the future here. So now Marvel is reconsidering their lineup for the future because audiences might not be down with that. So there's internal concern, especially with Bob Iger coming back and taking the reins of Disney about the future of their properties. We all know that Marvel is the biggest money maker for them as far as their films go. But there's concerns that with diminishing returns, with the likelihood of a recession and other factors, that a lot of these projects either won't see the light of day, they'll have to change them in the 11th hour, or they'll come out and then nobody will want to watch them because they're already seeing a decline in the MCU. So, this is Taskmaster, who was gender swapped in the movie as well. So let me go ahead and shoot this one to you guys. I'm pretty sure you guys weren't big fans of the MCU to begin with at this point. We're now at 2022 going on to 2023, 3 years removed from Endgame. So you guys have probably been well off the bandwagon for quite some time. But are you excited for the future's female version of the MCU that we're going to get in the next coming years? I'll start with Orange Hat.
No, to be completely honest, I have done several videos explaining how an all-female Avengers team would actually possibly not do very good at all when compared to a balanced team or a mixed team. Also, if Disney should be worried, I mean, if they're actually smart enough to catch it, they're having diminishing returns. They're making money on these films, yes, but they're not making $1 billion anymore. They need to start asking themselves, why are we not making $1 billion anymore? Well, maybe it's because you're alienating your fans. You're insulting a demographic of your fans, not just one demographic, but many demographics. I mean, there are a lot of people of color out there who have said that Black Panther is actually more racist towards black people than it is against white people. And you also have Thor Love and Thunder, which is, I mean, when I saw that film in theaters, parent brought their kids and they're like, what is, Daddy, what's an orgy? And I'm like, oh dear God, this poor child. And I wasn't, it's like, where I live, most kids know that at that age, but because, well, they hear a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, at least that kid was actually raised right, and you're not teaching them about that stuff until they're ready for it. But you got parents that are starting to wake up to this.
Yeah.
And you got parents that are starting to wake up to the reality of the world, not what the media wants it perceived as. For them to be race swapping, gender swapping, and all this other nonsense. You took my boy, the Taskmaster, one of my favorite characters in Marvel, and you turned him into a mindless drone of a traumatic woman who was like, woe is me, I'm a victim, because my daddy turned me into a freaking cybernetic mindless idiot that just knows how to kill, where he is a lot more than that. Taskmaster, the only person that could beat Taskmaster without superpowers is Deadpool because of how unpredictable he is.
Yep.
I mean, he was going toe-to-toe with people like Captain America. I mean, he could throw the shield just as good. He could shoot just as good as Hawkeye. and all that stuff. But with all this other stuff, they got to realize just because you haven't put a movie or a main movie with Brie Larson in the films or in the MCU for a while, people haven't forgotten that trash movie that she was in called Captain Marvel. I mean, let's
And
be
that's gonna
frank, folks.
next year. The
Yeah,
Marvels next
I
year.
think
That's their
so.
biggest. That's their big movie for the entire year. They're putting all their Marvels on the
And
Captain
here's the
Marvel
thing,
2.
folks. People were saying that a porn parody was a better version of an MCU film when it came to Captain Marvel. Or just soak that in for a second. A porn parody did a better job than an MCU film. So yeah, when that sort of thing happens, you might want to reevaluate what you're doing. First off, you have Brie Larson, who was actually caused a freaking Nissan boycott, from what I'm on the down low in certain areas. People are not wanting to buy Nissans, especially if Brie Larson is the one in the commercials. It's like she's really not that. She's
Likeable.
Yeah. I'm gonna go get a different vehicle. I mean, I don't like this woman.
Well, Rick, let me ask you
And
something. Because
she's trying to be likable. Yeah.
Oh, Rick, let me ask you a quick question, because you're the resident Marvel hater here, because that's just the way that you are, your nature. But you're sitting here and telling me that the idea that all of
Marvel
these
hater in the chat.
No, all of us. That's kind of the running joke between myself and Rick. It's about an old friend. You wouldn't get it, but but like I said,
the way I
you've
see
had
it,
this issue. What? Yes. What I was going to say is that you've had this issue with.
It's all fucked up.
Would kill you.
It's all fucked up.
Rick, what do you think about what's going on here? Because you've had this issue with Doctor Who as well. So, what do you think about the whole feminization of your favorite properties?
Well, as I said, I think it's strange that people in these studios change or aim to change the gender of the character from male to female, and I think it's almost always male to female, and expect the exact same result. I don't think you will ever achieve that, because yes, men and women are equal, but they are not the same. I'm not well versed enough in the Marvel lore to know whether or not certain characters are started out as male or female, so it's not a loss to me. But if you're going to change it because you're aiming for some kind of representation, or you're trying for equity, or just so that little girls could have a heroine to look up to, I don't know that's really going to work. And with apologies to Brie Larson, who I do think is talented. I mean, I thought
No.
Room was well acted. I'm sorry, I do believe that Room was well acted, but I'm told good things about Short Term 12.
Did she have one emotion the entire movie?
Apart from
Right.
that, I cannot say anything about Brie Larson. I'm not going to beat up on her.
Do it.
She would do it to you.
Yeah, beat up on her.
No,
she hates you because you have a Y chromosome. Do it.
No.
Come on, guys. Come on. Rick is Mexican, though. She's fine. She's not going to beat him up.
Yeah, I'm exercising my Mexican privilege, and I do believe in turning the other cheek. All I can say is that it's just not going to work, because you are going to change the character. You are going to change the character fundamentally by making a character go from male to female. It's interesting though, when you were listing off all the character changes, it's always the daughters. It just seems daughters. The daughters are going to inherit it. The daughters are going to be the ones to take up the mantle of their fathers. So I mean, it's not anything really original because it's gonna be the same family. But would the daughter, would Ant Man's daughter really react the same way as her father would? Would she be the same? Would the daughter of I guess another character, would she act the same way? You're trying to basically substitute. You're trying to just change the physical, but keep the exact same character. It wouldn't work. I'm not like my father, and I'm sure my father's not like my grandfather. And if I have a son, he's not going to
Well,
be the same as me. We're all going to react to things differently. Even if we're the same gender. So I'm perplexed. I just don't understand the logic behind it. Apart from, oh, it's time we had a female Ant Man. It's time we had a female Thor. It's time we had a female Doctor Who. It's time we had a female. I don't know if it's time to have a female. How about we just have a character that the audiences would actually like versus just trying to make a man into a woman just so you could say we have a female character. And one last point, I'm sorry, I keep thinking that the Marvels or the Marvelettes, I keep thinking that's like a Dreamgirls movie where I keep thinking it
Oh,
sounds
they're
like a
lounge singers.
it sounds like a
why are you
Motown.
doing this?
It
You
sounds
know,
like
like
a
the
Motown.
Marvelettes is like probably the least known of the the girl groups at Motown. Why must you dump on them, sir?
That's funny.
Okay,
No,
why?
whenever I hear about the Marvels or the Marvelettes or whatever,
No,
I
they
keep
aren't called the Marvelettes. Stop it. Get some help.
And Rick, you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of that scene in like Jackie Brown where Robert De Niro just got out of prison and like that big black woman is doing her like Donna Ross impression.
The baby
dancing.
Oh
love.
my god.
Yeah. So that's what's running through my head. So thank you for that.
I
Look,
referenced that the other day too. I forget
yeah,
to.
no, and I recently just watched it on Thanksgiving. So yeah, good memories. Marvel sucks. Like movies used to have psychology built into them, and like when Rick was talking, I was thinking how like none of these movies even consider how a character would get to that point or evolve in a sort of natural psychologically based way. Movies used to have this baked in to their characters, to the script, etc. And now, as Jacob is showing on screen, it's just like we're celebrating femininity for no other reason than, hey, these are heroes with vaginas. So I don't know. I was out on Marvel 7 years ago. So all of you can understand how much I'm just like, I'm so far gone when it comes to this shit. So it doesn't surprise me, but I'm sorry that this is what they did to at least a once promising cinematic universe.
Oh, well,
I
I
do
mean,
wanna
they're not
point
even
this out,
celebrating
too.
femininity. They're celebrating ugly women.
Right.
That is very true. But I do want to point this out because this has happened with I mentioned at the beginning. This has happened with Saint Seiya, and it has pissed me off because I'm a huge Saint Seiya fan. When they turned Shun, who is a feminine man, into a woman in the CGI version. And I remember at the time, so many people were pissed because, especially obviously the Shun fans, because how it affected the lore for one thing, because Shun turns into, I'm spoiling it, deal with it. He turns into Hades. So basically you're saying that he's going to be, you're going to have a female turn into Hades. And plus it goes against the Saint Seiya lore because you can't have female saints that are unmasked. Unless they are a Saintia or they become, there's this other ritual or whatnot. So the other thing is then you'll see it in the live action Saint Seiya. If you the article I wrote on Bounding for it is they actually gender swapped a villain, and oh god, that people are so pissed about that too. And the person playing it was in the X-Men movies as Jean Grey. Famke Jensen is in this movie.
Really?
I am dead serious.
Oh, God, I love Famke Jensen so much. How did she fall this far? I will say this: at least she's a good actress. But yeah, that sucks. That's dog shit. It's like obviously, she probably is gonna get some hate for that. That was very poor choice of thing to be involved in on her part. But then again, she knows nothing about anime because she openly said like she's never read a comic before. She's a fan of novels. She doesn't get into comics, and I'm sure she doesn't get into anime. So that was just a bad choice on her part.
I'm telling you, Toei is basically Toei and Sony are declaring war on Latin America. The moment they said this was a U.S. centric based anime live action adaptation, manga to anime live action adaptation, and they said this was going to be mainly, actually, I should say anime because this is the CGI anime that they are adapting. The moment they said that, yeah, they declared war on Latin America because that's where Saint Seiya is extremely popular. So
it's just that all basically saying, oh, it's going to be Americanized means we're just going to ignore the fact that lore exists and rules exist for this universe and do whatever the fuck we want to do because we're a bunch of dick-faced assholes. That's typically how it goes.
Well, yeah, and they want to make 6 movies out of this. I'm like, what? You want to do 6? You want to do 6 movies and drag the franchise even further down the hole and piss the fans off even more. Like, these people piss me off so much. It's like, I mention it because it's like, this is what Marvel is doing. Marvel, and this is the second series I have seen in the last couple of months where they're trying to model off like the MCU or something like that in terms of whether it's Trigun with they're rebooting. Oh, I'm so pissed about that too.
Yo, Vash? Why
you
Vash
know what?
look like such a bitch. Like they are replacing Vash with a female character. They're just making him look like a bitch. So.
By the way, real quick, I forgot to mention that with the Marvels, the director Nia DaCosta, who did me and Rob's favorite movie of 2021, which was Candyman, the Candyman reboot, which is nothing but, let's just put it this way: if you like what you saw with the Black Hebrew Israelites in the earlier portion of the show, then you'll probably like Candyman too. So
I do want to mention with Trigun, by the way, what they said, what this guy said, the Toho producer, he said that he wanted to reboot, do the rebooting similar to what like the MCU and DCEU did with their heroes. As soon as they said that, I was like, are you fucking serious? This is not what the fans wanted. We just wanted a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood kind of thing going on, and that's what Studio Orange wanted to do, actually. Not this shit.
And a quick little note: Orange Hat did have to drop out because the weather in his area was affecting his internet. But he will be keeping in the chat. But yeah, I just wanted to go ahead. Like I said, we've talked about this enough tonight. This is what Hollywood wants to do, and Disney knows that this is not going to be accepted by the majority of the audience, but they're still choosing to do it anyway, which is hilarious to me because it's like if you're going to double down and just spit in everyone's face, then you can only get away with calling people sexist for so long until they just completely tune out. And I think a lot of people have just completely tuned out at this fucking point. But I'll let you make your final point, Cassie.
No, but at this point, they are reconsidering what they've done because now they're in a situation. Oh, well, our movies aren't making nearly as much money as they used to, and just the fact that we're in a economic downturn, and that is unavoidable. We are in a recession. They don't want to say it because apparently this administration just wants to ignore that reality for the sake of everything's okay. We promise. Just keep giving us your fucking tax money as we burn it, giving it to useless garbage while we have no fucking money anyway. So that's what we're dealing with. And I think probably the situation that Disney may have been involved in crypto-wise, clearly they are panicking. They put themselves in this corner, and they deserve all the failure that they get because they could have done, what basically they could have tried to have made everyone happy. Instead, they wanted to appease to making their films advertisable and TV shows advertisable on fucking Twitter. And look what that got you, a whole bunch of bullshit nothing. Now Twitter's owned by someone you cannot stand because they're not a complete leftist maniac by any means that at least is for free speech. So yeah, good luck with that, assholes. You deserve what you get, Disney.
I'm just curious. Does this mean we're not going to get that series about the mute deaf, one-legged lesbian
Echo.
Native
Well,
American?
apparently that's still on the cards. It's supposed to come out next year, so that one I think is already in the can, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. So because we definitely need a with deaf, one-legged lesbian Native American
Yeah.
to I guess I honestly don't know. I
Hey,
mean,
guess what? Guess what? I can't wait to laugh at it on Twitter and not get fucking axed on Twitter for it. So I will laugh like hell, and if people get upset about it and cry, too fucking bad, because I'm not going anywhere, even if I do laugh at how
Their
abysmal
tears
it's
will
more than
only
likely
make you
to
more
be.
powerful.
I just don't understand why we needed to do that. Uh,
Like I said, it's even worse in the comics. I think Spencer was talking about this last night, how they announced that they're going to do a Vision quest, which Vision, a character who's already dead in the MCU, by the way, they're doing a Disney Plus series on him. That way they can introduce his daughter, who will also be basically the female version of him. In the comic books, they've replaced Daredevil with Elektra, so she's the new female Daredevil. They've replaced Psylocke, who was a character that everyone loves. She's the new Captain Britain now. Like, this is essentially what they do. This is their plan. And but the people in charge, they're not going to move away from this whatsoever, because by moving away for it, they have to admit defeat, that hey, this shit didn't work out. And they're never going to do that. So they're going to double down till this whole thing burns to the ground. And quick note here, the reason why they're starting to panic is because the movies that they released this year, none of them hit $1 billion. None of them got close. I think the closest one was Doctor Strange, which did over like 900. I think it was like 940 that Doctor Strange 2 did. Then you had Thor, which only did 760 during out its entire run. And then everyone's talking about what a great success Black Panther is. Black Panther has only done 734 right now worldwide. You also keep in mind they probably spent more to market that film than they did on Thor. So their break even is probably even higher than what Thor did, and they're only barely matching Thor's progress right now. So I mean, this whole house of cards is starting to fall apart. So
But that's the thing. You change the gender from male to female, but you basically keep the same character. It's basically the same character in the way they behave, in the way they think, in their outlook. That's not real progress, because a just a person, regardless of whether it's male or female, a person would be different, would react differently to the world, would have a different point of view. You can't, I mean, it's basically, without sounding harsh, it almost looks like you just are having all of these people be cosplayers, or having the characters in drag, and just have the same character. You can't have a female Hawkeye be the same as a male Hawkeye, because it's not it's a different person, separate from whether it's male or female. It's a different person who would see the world differently, or who should see the world differently. That's why I don't think that these ideas about just gender swap ever work, just based on an individual level, let alone a biological level, or at least a worldview.
And it's like it's a very shallow form of deconstruction. Do you know what I mean? Like there's interesting ways you can talk about genre tropes and characters, and deconstruct these traditional ideas and make it something interesting. But this is the most shallow version of that, and that's all they have. It's like, hey, we're making fun of the hero and the villain and the whole set, and it's like, but you don't have any original ideas, and you're not taking it anywhere new, and so this is all you have, and it's really sad that they're selling this to audiences.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is very shallow. It's very pandering. It's very like it's got that white woman on Twitter sort of appeal, you know.
Yeah.
I will say too, like a good example of this is like kind of like doing it the right way is like the Green Lantern. Like there's Hal Jordan, and there's John Stewart, and there's the other guy,
Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, they all like have different backgrounds, and I mean, yes, they're all men, and yeah, John Stewart is black, but I mean, like they all
And one
have.
of them is half Mexican.
There you go. So I mean, like you have 3 very different people, and they have all those different styles for how they form their the little Green Lantern power. Like
well, they're deliberately being antagonistic. There's no Like when it comes to this shit, they know who it upsets. The people that care about this shit. They don't want to hire anybody to make any of this stuff that's actually a fan of the source material in regard to what they're doing. They hate the people that actually have been dedicated to the history of Marvel and all these characters and have loved these characters for many years. They blatantly hate you is the main thing at bay, and that's why instead of doing the what would be the right thing, which is bringing forth characters that are not white to the forefront and giving them giving them what they deserve. Like, why don't we have a live action Static Shock by now? There's plenty of other. Why is it that they instead of bringing forth, there's plenty of characters in these comic books that are not white and that are not male, and they aren't brought to the forefront because they do not want to put money at risk when it comes to taking these rather unknown characters that they continue to keep unknown and unvisited on their behalf, to instead piss off a bunch of people by race swapping, gender swapping, and doing a complete disservice to all these characters. Everything that they do seems to be antagonistic because, well, it pisses off the people on Twitter that they don't like, and it makes people happy on Twitter that they do like. And with that, there's just complete malice in their choices, and that's why they don't create anything good, because everything that they do seem to make now is specifically out of malice, not out of wanting to make something good, not out of wanting to be true to what has historically been throughout the lineage of this lore of Marvel. They don't care about any of that shit.
No, I would argue that it's not just that. It makes the people who fight for these changes feel good about themselves. Like when it came to Doctor Who, after being called a sexist for saying that no, the character is male, we have a female equivalent that you could spin off into her own adventures. They celebrated, they cheered. We had all these people saying, "Oh, I'll finally watch the show now because we finally, at long last, have a female Doctor."
Chris Hardwick.
Yeah. No. He had always watched, but then they had the higher ratings because of the novelty. But then what happened after 3 episodes? It went down. We were told that the people who objected, we were told, yeah, you see, the ratings are high, so obviously there was a big push for this. I said no. See the ratings for episode 6, because by that time the novelty would have worn off, and then we would have had the established character. What happened? The ratings kept falling and falling and falling and falling. And all of these people who said, "Oh, I'm going to watch the show," they never did. All of the people that they're changing, they're pursuing an audience that is not there, because they changed the characters so that they could placate people on Twitter and just people who comment, but they don't support the properties when they change the characters from male to female. They don't, because they don't care. That's not the whole point. That's not the point. The point is to make that change. They could feel good about themselves, and they could finally have a character little girls could look up to, rather
Little
than
girls
say,
don't look up to heroes like this, though.
"Oh well, apparently they do," because that's the reason we needed to change Doctor Who or the Doctor from male to female. Because there's a Twitter thing where this videotaped a girl watching is like, "The new Doctor's a girl," and I said, "Oh, yeah, big deal. I mean, watch Romana. That character is smarter than the Doctor ever was, and she would have made a great series." All the people who were called sexist, if you had made a Romana TV show, all of these so-called sexist fans would have immediately gone and seen her show, because she was a beloved character, separate from her gender. But no, what happened? They're not watching, and they're not going to go to see support these movies if you have a female Thor, a female Hawkeye, female Black Panther, and if you keep going with this. They're not, because they don't care. They're not as invested in the characters as the fans are. So that would just be my interpretation. I mean, coming from someone who is not versed in the Marvel DC world, and who still wonders why we don't have the Wonder Twins movie. So that's just me.
Well, they were going to do it, but there was a backlash because they were whitewashed for one thing. And then it got canceled.
What are they supposed to? Are they Native American? Like, what are they? The
They're
Wonder
Canadian.
Twins? Oh, really?
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
No.
that's good.
I just saw somebody say that like the that assisted suicide thing that Canada's rolling out. There's like this is the only
Yeah.
commercial with all white people in it.
Yeah, that's the only one you're going to see moving forward. Well, look, we're at our last topic for the night. By the way, shout out to all our newfound mods. You may check in the chat that you guys have some new power tripping roles for everyone here on the show. So go crazy.
Great
Good.
responsibility.
I'm surprised
Yeah.
that you haven't brought up the whole thing about Splash Mountain getting closed and the celebration Twitter has been going through, that racism has been solved.
There's only so much Disney I can take on one show, so we'll save that one for another show. But we are going to move on. We're going to stay on superhero movies here for a second. Everyone remember when Dwayne Johnson was like the biggest name in Hollywood, and he was considered to be the biggest star in Hollywood not too long
When
ago?
was that?
No.
That was
was that?
before he said he was voting for Joe Biden and Kamala. I think so.
Well, maybe that has something to do with it because let's just put it this way: his name doesn't have the star power that it did maybe about 5-6 years ago. There could be a reason for that. But Black Adam, a movie that we most of us saw here. I'm not sure if Cassie or Nerdigan saw it, but a movie that most of us saw here is actually a box office bomb because people did not go out and support the film. So the movie cost about a production budget of about $200 million, and probably put countless money into marketing and things of that nature. They thought that, hey, Rock is such a big, massive star that, hey, the people will go out there and support him because everyone likes Rock, right? He's going to run for president one day. He's going to be President Rock. Well, the reality is this film only made about $384 million in its entire run, and it's rumored to is going to lose about $50 to $100 million when it's all said and done. Black Adam is a massive bust for Warner Brothers, who is already not having a very good year to begin with, so this is definitely not going to make them feel any better. Maybe you guys should have kept Shazam 2 on your schedule instead of pushing it back 90 days for this shit. But yeah, only 380. Well, this one says $387 million globally after 7 weeks, so it's been out for a while here. The marketing was said to be about $100 million in marketing alone. The production was about $200 million. They said that this film needed to make somewhere about, I think, $600 million to break even. It's not going to get anywhere close to that. I think after you move some tax breaks around and move some numbers around, you're probably going to look at anywhere between a $50 to $100 million loss when this one is all said and done. And yeah, it says right here, this Variety article, movie stands to lose just that amount based on estimates. I mean, some people were saying before that they only needed 400 to break even, and people say no, the break even was 450. Here's the thing: I think people are under the impression that, you know, let's say, like I said, the movie made almost $400 million. They think that the studio gets all of that money. That's not really the case. The studio only gets a percentage of that movie, which means that even if their all in was $200 million on production, let's say another 150 in marketing, the movie still has to make a certain amount just to get back what they put into it when it's all said and done. And this one probably had to make somewhere between 500 to 600 million, and it didn't even come close. So now people are questioning The Rock's drawing ability, and I do bring this up because there's rumors now that The Rock may come back for WrestleMania this year, or next year I should say, in LA, that he's going to have this big match with Roman Reigns, and that he'll come back to the ring when he's 50 years old. I do find it a little bit ironic that, you know, here's a guy who was once the highest paid actor in Hollywood, was considered the most popular actor in Hollywood. He bought the XFL. He's promoting the hell out of the XFL. He has his tequila, all these other brands, but people aren't really going to see him in the movies the way that they were a few years ago. So I'll swing this one over to you, especially Rob. What's kind of your thoughts on The Rock here? Is his star power gone? Is this the it for him?
I mean, I've never really thought The Rock was a big star. I mean, I remember when they tried selling him in, was it The Scorpion King? And then like the actual spin-off Scorpion King movie after that or whatever, or after the second Mummy movie. And then since then, how is he even a big, like, I know the movies he's been in. I know he was in that Jumanji sequel and that Kevin Hart movie, and like, I mean, he's the Tooth Fairy and like all these things that, like, along the way, I guess he's
a nothing burger actor.
But
he's a nothing burger.
I have, like, Arnold is a better actor than The Rock. You know what I mean? And Arnold isn't a very good actor,
A lot of Arnold's films are revisitable. I can't think of a Rock movie that is worth revisiting by any means.
I can't.
Well, I watched The Mummy too, but I watch it more for Brendan Fraser.
Right, and I'm, you know, whatever. I think that it's amazing he's kind of been at the top of this long. When he was doing Ballers, I think was like kind of what you're talking about. Like when that series started, he was also had multiple projects going on in Hollywood. But you know, he can't carry a superhero movie, and that's okay. Not everybody can, and I don't think it was that great of a movie. I liked it. You know, I thought that it had enough to be mostly entertaining, but you know, they probably shouldn't have spent as much as they did on advertising. I think the same amount of people probably would have gone regardless of how much they advertised. That's honestly what probably killed them in terms of making a profit on this movie. But
yeah,
but then like you just pointed out, they only reap some of that profit because a certain percentage goes to the theaters. So it's just I think this year, especially the second half of this year, has been incredibly dull and bland at the movies, and audiences have largely stayed away. I mean, even the Marvel movies, like we just talked about, haven't had those sort of record billion-dollar box office hauls that they're used to having. So I think people are just sick of the shit that they're putting out there.
Well, I would agree with Rob. I think this whole idea that the Rock or Dwayne Johnson is this cinematic behemoth is a myth. I don't think he's ever been a star. I mean, he's tried to be one. I mean, it was a fine little brief performance in The Mummy Returns. But it was just basically a cameo in the climactic
CGI.
battle. It was a CGI figure. And then they decided, oh, well, we're going to do a whole series of films. He was in maybe one or two of Scorpion King movies, and then I think they just hired other people. And he's tried to do the family comedies and the regular comedies. He's and now they're trying to promote him. They've always tried to promote him, and now he's even got like a TV show about his early years, which is just bizarre to me. Was it Young Rock on Peacock? I've always been perplexed. Oh yes, and he also did those Fast and Furious movies. But trust me, people were not going to go see those movies because of him. They were going because it was already an established franchise, and he just.
He also did the voice from Moana as well. You forgot about that.
Which one?
Oh yeah,
Moana.
Moana is like vastly overrated. So.
And yeah, they weren't going for him because he was just a voice. I mean that's like saying people went to see Aquaman because Dame Julie Andrews was a voice, you know, had a voice role in that. It's that. No, I never bought the idea that he was a star. So it's not a surprise that you had a character that not a lot of people know. I'm sorry, I don't know who Black Adam was before this movie came out. And The Rock is not a star. He's not a big draw. He's certainly not an actor. I'm not. I'm going to have to wait a while before we get to see him in Death of a Salesman. So, hey, that would be an interesting image.
What, as Willy Loman?
Yeah.
Okay,
we're gonna see that. So no, I mean, we talked about this before. There are no big film stars. There are no stars whom you could say they could draw people in. What? Tom Cruise, and then who else? Tom Hanks? Can't.
Okay.
Julia Roberts, might not. Sandra Bullock, might not. A lot of these other films are not. I mean, these other performers are not going to just draw people in on name alone.
Yeah.
You don't have that. They go to see the properties.
Real quick before I let you guys go, I wanted to point out some of these past films that The Rock has been on where he's been basically tasked with leading the film by himself, and he really hasn't had that much success. Like, let's go back to, remember Hercules? That film only did about $244 million globally, which wasn't that much like at all. And I could point out a couple other films that were only like moderate successes, like San Andreas, the disaster movie, only did about $474. That was back in 2015. Baywatch was an epic flop all around. That one only made like 180 off of a smaller budget. Rampage was another movie that they put him on the front of. That only did about 428. Skyscraper was another film they put The Rock in that only did about 300. So I mean, a lot of these films that he's been a part of, when he's been basically tasked to lead these movies by himself, haven't done very well. Even what was that Jungle Cruise with Emily Blunt that came out a couple years ago? That was only 220. So the films that have done better for him is like movies like you said, like the Fast and Furious franchise or like the Jumanji franchise. Those have been pretty big turnouts for him. But stuff like what Central Intelligence, when him and Kevin Hart, they only did like $210 million. So maybe it's that's part of the myth of him being a big box office star, is that he's more attached to bigger movies.
You didn't mention Race to Witch Mountain. How dare you, sir?
You know,
How dare
okay, you know what
Race to
movie
Witch Mountain?
I love? Okay, what movie I love that he's in, and it's an ensemble cast. It's a movie called Southland Tales, who JEC in the chat just brought up. Okay, I can't even recommend this movie because it's that fucking crazy, but it's basically like a dystopian, futuristic movie. It takes like the id of the left and the right in America and basically projects it out for 3 hours. So all I'm going to say is The Rock plays a terrible action hero, like a action actor who is part of the time is like a schizophrenic, so he's easily controlled by like political entities and whatever. Anyway, go watch it if you just want like a fucked up weird ass movie to watch. He's not bad in it, but like again, he's not asked to do much. He's playing a guy who isn't a good actor.
You know what film I thought of when you said that, Rob? I thought you were gonna say Be Cool with John Travolta and Uma
The
Thurman.
sequel to Get Shorty.
What is it?
It's the sequel to Get Shorty.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's
Billy
a sequel
Palmer.
to something. Yeah.
Neo asked the question, do you think that The Rock should stay as a wrestler than actor? I mean, financially, him leaving the WWE is probably the best decision of his life, so I can't say he should have stayed in WWE. And at this point, he's 50 years old, probably going on 51, so it's not like he has that much to do in the world of pro wrestling at this point. Like I said, they're asking him to come in so that he can put Roman Reigns over at WrestleMania and make Roman Reigns a bigger star before he eventually leaves for Hollywood as well. So that's pretty much all I can say as far as that whole thing.
As far as he's concerned too, like I mean, how many actors have gotten better as they've aged, like consistently gotten better since they the only person I could think of vaguely is Clint Eastwood, and even he's kind of like stepped back, and he's only had movies out every couple of years. The Rock has a lot on his plate. I mean, he's filming down here in Atlanta right now.
But he's not an actor, and he's not even that big of a star. Yeah. I never accepted this idea that he was a star. If he were, people would go see Rock or Dwayne Johnson films. They don't. They go see Fast Furious. They go see the Scorpion Kings. They go see. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Somewhat. Some of people do anyway.
Some people do. All right.
I mean, like he's gotten kind of like the Arnold treatment though, and that's kind of why I think he has some staying power. But I do think that he's doing too much to make it effective. I mean, he's a very nice guy. There are worse people in Hollywood that you could give his jobs to, and I didn't hate Black Adam. I thought it was decent. You know.
Yeah.
Is this the part where I use my wrench power to time this guy out? No,
I was just about to say, the guy who says that Batista is the better actor, slow down. Just slow down.
They're trying to do the same thing with him because he had that movie with the kid, and Batista's trying to do more of those action-y sort of things and stuff. So I mean, you can kind of see it after you've seen it so many times. They did this with Arnold. They did this with stuff. John Cena's getting the treatment. So it's.
I have to pull out a Black Bond right here, and Black Bond is a gaming YouTuber, and say the reason why The Rock is not successful in his movie career is because he is bald. Okay, he was way better. He was way better when he had hair. That is a fact. Now that he's bald, everything about him. It's fucked. It's over.
He's bald and he's on more HGH that can kill an elephant right now. fucking HDH and TRT, and let's be honest, you don't gain 300 pounds of muscle in your 50s. That just doesn't happen naturally.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, look, he's not really wrestling, at least right now. So hey, if that's what he wants to do, if he wants to die at the age of 60, I mean, hey, that's his choice. I'm very libertarian on that front. But I will say it's amazing to see how much success Dwayne Rock Johnson has had being mediocre at his job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, most people want mediocre though, or they're okay with it. So I mean, like I've read a lot of stupid books, for example, that have gotten way more money than I have for mine, and I think mine aren't like perfect, but they're at least up on the higher end of the intelligence scale. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, he's just like that guy that, I mean, up until like recently, where he kind of got more political, like you couldn't really necessarily say anything bad about. Like we reminisced over his WWE times, some of the fucking greatest moments on the mic when it came to The Rock. And you know, he's just one of those dudes that even though he kind of puts out a movie that is sometimes watchable and sometimes it's just awful, god fucking awful. I mean, people just didn't really find anything bad to say about The Rock. Maybe that's kind of what got his foot through the door a lot of the time. But it is kind of weird to really put a finger on The Rock's movie career and how far he's managed to get based upon results not being where you think.
Yeah, great. I think he's very distinctive. It's kind of like we were talking earlier about the redheads being replaced by black people. It's like redheads are very distinctive, and even if you don't remember their character or their name, they have a power of like being different. I think that you know, he's different enough from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and people were looking for more of that in some of their movies. And
he's very recognizable. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, he's had a lot of that distinctive, recognizable thing, and he's also comes off as very down to earth and very relatable at the same time. And a lot of people like that. If you're likable, distinctive, and you have personality, that will carry you a lot further than actual talent. So,
that is what an actor's job is. On like the thing socially, like what they don't talk about in terms of your acting ability and everything is being likable, because you have to have connections to be able to walk in those rooms and know, hey, this is who my competition is. This is the chance I have of actually impressing these people and getting this job, because a lot of it's not really about talent always, you know.
Well, again, I mean, when it comes to Black Adam, did people go see Dwayne Johnson? Because I believe he wants to be called Dwayne Johnson when he's, you know, a thespian and not The Rock. Did the people go to see the movie because Dwayne Johnson was in the movie, or did they go because it was Black Adam the character? On both counts, it's not a surprise the movie is not as successful as they had hoped for, because again, the character is not you know, an A-level character like Superman or Spider-Man or and then Dwayne Johnson, he's not as big of a star as he's being constantly promoted as being. I don't think so. So what would have been the idea that he alone by his own name would have drawn audiences in? What proof do we have that he has ever done that?
It's crazy when you see like the fact that his film, his DC film ended up bombing. When I remember like being in the first year, for my first college year, when it was announced that he was going to play Black Adam, and it taking all this time, all of these years later, for it to end up being a box office bomb, like that's crazy, man. To really think about how much time has passed since his casting till now and result.
Yeah, this film was in development hell for at least 15 years and finally came out and then ultimately be bombed. So I don't know. Do you think this movie would have done better if it came out in 2007 rather than coming out in 2022?
Oh yeah, like maybe, you know, like 10 years ago for sure. I think that it would have been definitely beloved, or at least it would have made way more money than it ended up making.
It would have been interesting though for that timing, because Superman Returns with Brandon Routh came out in 2006. So that's kind of interesting you bring that up, because it's like that kind of would have changed the trajectory, even though that lost money too. I don't think that made that much money. So, but you know, it's interesting timing because it would have come on the heels of a Superman movie.
All right. Well, any last thoughts on this one before we wrap things up here for the night? All right.
No.
Then I guess we're just gonna. Yes.
We're tired.
At least a no would be great. Just.
So we can move on.
No.
All right, then. Well, we'll go ahead and thank everyone for joining us here tonight. Like I said, I know Orange Hat has some issues with his internet, but go ahead and subscribe to his channel. I'm going to link it for you guys out in the chat so you guys can go follow him. And then we'll go ahead and give everybody else our proper treatment as we shove them off, get them off the air so we can all go home. So let's start with C.S. Johnson. What do you have that you would like the people to know about?
I have lots of stuff. So I'm a writer and I write a lot of books, and I have good books. I think they're funny and charming, and my characters that are female are distinctively female. So actually one of my books is free today. It's called Lard Boy, and it's in my Fat Girl series, and it's funny, hilarious, and charming, and you should all go and get it. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel, please.
Yeah, let's not forget that one, especially since I'm shilling it out right as we speak. All right, let's go ahead and shoot over to the most attentive guy on the internet, Mr. Rob Motto. Where can they find more of you?
Yeah, so if you check out my Twitter, that's pretty much where I spend most of my time, something like, 13 hours a day, which is pretty unhealthy, but, that's just tweet about movies. I'm currently reading A Light in the Dark, movie on film directors by David Thompson, who I've read 6 or 7 of his books. He's pretty good. He's just an annoying liberal, though, so sometimes, he was talking about Gone with the Wind, how we haven't moved on past the 1940 premiere, and it's like, really, dude? I mean, there's 80 years of history since that moment and now, and you don't think we've advanced anyway. It's a good book. I recommend it, and it's very instructive. So just watching a bunch of film noir right now and getting ready for some holiday horror movies coming up, and looking forward to the end of the year. So 2023 is a lot better than this year has been for the movies.
All right. Moving to somewhere near Death Valley is our good buddy Nerdigans. Where can we find more of you?
Well, at the moment, my kitty's being a little fussy. Stop it, Keys. Well, you can catch me. Oh, here he is. Hi, Keys. So you can catch me on Nerdigans Inc. on YouTube, where manga never sleeps and neither do I. I covered 9 series today. Yeah. Wow. So, I cover anime, mainly Bleach right now, because that's the only good anime for me. I know a lot of people like Chainsaw Man and stuff like that, but nah, I'm only covering Bleach this season. I do cover news on my channel, as well as I do on Bounding into Comics, where the news for, as I mentioned earlier, Saint Seiya is up. The 25th anniversary for Metabots, which I sent in to Jacob, and hopefully we'll talk about it on a retrograde, because the cool thing about that is all 52 episodes of the original Metabots are going to be available legally on YouTube for the first time ever. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the original game's release in 1997. So that's really freaking cool. I got the trailer. I covered the trailer for the sequel for the Tokyo Revengers live action, which is the opposite of Saint Seiya. It's actually a good live action adaptation. It looks so good. And then I got more content for Ranger Rejects trailer. And yes, I'm going to be fighting Kodansha USA. I'm going to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing and call it by its actual name, which is Ranger Reject, and not that stupid Go-Go Loser Ranger. It's not happening. But I got that and more end of the year list and all that, so stay tuned.
All right, then moving over to someone who doesn't need my promotion, so he has way more subs than I do. Let's go, Classic Cage. How you doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was a good discussion as always. So I think this week, since the Game Awards are on, I think we're going to be doing a live stream, and it will be titled Let's Make Fun of the Game Awards, because, I have to, be counter to the narrative, and I love making the gaming community mad, so that's kind of just what I like to do, be a little bit antagonistic for fun. I think I'm going to have some of the homies my close gaming buddies also join me in that. So if you want to come hang out with us, make fun of Jeff Keighley's pencil neck loser looking ass, probably finally propose to Hideo Kojima live, come hang out with us and we'll make fun of them both. So that's cool. You can always, if you want to do that, hit me up on Cult Classic Cage on YouTube. And if you just want to talk to me, hit me up on Twitter. It's Cult Classic Cage.
All right, last and certainly not least, Mr. Rick Aragon, all the way from Texas, aka Waterburger Central. What you got coming up, my friend?
Oh, geez. I've been dragging my feet about writing some of the reviews for the movies that I've seen. And just also trying to get through the endless amount of links and screeners that I've received for our own awards nominations. And just getting ready to getting ready to watch Avatar and sit through like 5 hours of water, which is sad because I don't know how to swim, and also just hoping to survive. But I'm enjoying my new TV. That's a plus.
Woo!
Yeah. My nice 50-inch screen TV that I bought, and like I was telling Cassie, the last time I bought a TV was from Circuit City, so that should tell you how long that was since I bought a TV. And I'm looking forward to getting maybe one or two more birthday gifts. I mean, I could do with a new pair of shoes because last time I bought a pair of shoes, it was from Bliss. So again, that should tell you how long it's been since I've buy things.
Oh my god, baby needs new shoes. We get it.
Yes.
Oh, I sent you a shirt. Did you get it yet?
Actually, I did, and I will be wearing it next week.
Okay, yay.
Yes. Woo!
Good. Get
want
yourself some new shoes to wear with it. Some High School Musical loafers, maybe.
I'll do my best. Although I was thrown off when I saw that it said from Latvia. I'm going, what? Who do I know? Is this like some sort of scam?
Hey, I had to go the cheap route with packaging.
Speaking of shirts, I just wanted to point this out there. Cassie, are you wearing a Adam Cole shirt here on the podcast?
Yes. This is before AEW.
Okay. So I want to go ahead and give you guys a good note what we're going to have coming up this week on the show. So, she's back. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing retro rave reviews here on the channel, and we're going to be talking about G4 Tech TV. Maybe you guys are fans of G4. It's dead again for like the second time now. So, G4 is dead, but we're going to talk about a much better time in G4's life. Right after the merger with Tech TV, they had a lot of great shows, a lot of great content. Had they had kept that direction back in 2004, 2005, they may have had a much better future, but they did. We'll talk about that in more detail. That'll be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. And then right after that show, I have the Black Pill stream on Battling in the Comics YouTube. We're going to be talking about the big stories of the week on them with Josh Spencer, who surprisingly was not here tonight, even though I just talked to Spencer a couple of minutes ago. So he was around. He just decided not to join us tonight, but he's going to be surprised to figure out he's not the only mod in town this time next week. On Saturday night, we're going to be here. We're going to be watching the UFC pay-per-view. So we're bringing back Beer Night, Fight Night, and watching the last UFC pay-per-view of the year. So join us for that one this weekend, this Saturday night at 10 o'clock, I believe, is when we're going to be starting East Coast time.
I have good news. I'll be there.
Oh, yeah, because you didn't have a choice. No. So that's coming up Saturday, and then next Monday on Twitch and on Twitter. I'm trying to make Odyssey happen. There's still having some issues there, but on Twitter next Monday night we're gonna be bringing back movie night, and we're gonna be watching Big Trouble in Little China. After this week, we watched Bad Boys. I am working on getting that one on Odyssey, so you guys can watch a replay of that. But we're gonna have a good fun movie night on Monday night, and then next Tuesday we'll be right back over here, same time, same channel. And to everyone who joined us in the chat tonight, our good buddy Neo, our new best friend Matt Vader, GEC, Duke Nukem, who's always here, Alex, who's always here with us. If anyone else, so I know Dre was here a little bit. Dre was here a little bit with us tonight. We have a whole bunch of other people in the chat if I shot you guys out. Copa, who was here, Brahma Bull, everyone. So everyone who joined us, hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow when we talk about G4 Tech TV. So go ahead, wave to the people at home. We're calling it a night. We'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow night for G4 Tech TV or the Black Pill stream. But until then, we're going home. We're tired. We've been through a lot. We're done here. Wave the cats. Show off the cats to the camera. Good night.